Isang pagsusulit para sa estudyanteng bago. Tama o mali, ito ang sabi ko. Ano nga bang pangalan mo, edad at kurso? Hindi ba ikaw yung laging sa dulo umuupo? Scholar ka pala, pero tagilid ang grado mo. Pero lagi kitang napapansin, para kang anghel na naging tao. Ang liit ng bewang at ang kinis ng mga braso. Masarap ka sigurong kayakap sa malamig na gabi, ano? Virgin ka pa ba? Wala pang nagiging nobyo? Nga pala, first name na lang. Huwag ka na mag-opo. May gagawin ka ba ngayon? Samahan mo muna ako rito. Bilan na kitang hapunan. Ano bang gusto mo? Mukhang gabi na. Wala ba sa iyong susundo? Hatid na kita pa uwi. Saan ba ang dorm mo? Medyo napagod ako sa biyahe. Papasukin mo naman ang iyong guro. Ang tahimik naman. Mag-isa ka lang ba talaga rito? Isara mo na ang pinto at halika sa tabi ko. Huwag ka na matakot. Hindi ako masamang tao. Dahil kung ayaw mo bumagsak sa pagsusulit na ito at gusto mong makakuha ng mataas sa grado, huwag kang aangal sa aking mga plano. At ngayon, pumili ka. Kwarto o 4?
Overtime, overtawad. Kahit overwork at sobrang pagod, magpupursigi sa pagkayod. Tanong nila, may energy ka pa ba? Pursigidong sagot ko, kakayanin sir, ako pa ba? Para sa pamilya, magtitiis at magsusumikap para tuwing kinsenas at katapusan, may pambili ng mga pangangailangan. Sa totoo lang, kayang-kaya ang bigat ng trabaho kung matyaga ka at buo ang loob mo. Kaya lang, isang gabi, tinawag ako ni boss ko.
Pumasok ka sa opisina ko, may papagawa akong trabaho.
Nagkibit balikat, ipinagwalang bahala. Pagkat utos ng hari ay hindi dapat mabali. 5 katok sa kanyang pintuang tila impyerno na aking tutunguhan. 3 dipa mula sa patibong ng lalaking halang ang kaluluwa. Amoy ng sigarilyong kumakapit sa damit, habang sa akin titig na titig, nagpupuyos at patuloy na nag-iinit.
Diba gusto mong mapumo? Balata mo na sa akin kung isang gabi.
Mabilis ang paglapit niya hanggang sa ako'y mahigpit na hinawakan. Boss, nirerespeto ko po kayo. Huwag naman po sana kayong magbiro ng ganto.
Sandali lang to. Di mo mamamalayan. Paparamdam ko sa iyo ang langit. Tataas ko pa ang sweldo mo. Hindi ba yan ang dahilan kaya panay ang overtime mo?
Dito na ako naiyak at nagsimula na akong magpumiglas. Tumakbo ako ng matulin, kumaripas ng kumaripas, humahangos habang ang luha ko'y tuloy sa pag-agos. 3, 2, 1, 3. 3 taong sa kumpanyang itinuri kong tunay na pamilya. 2 salitang hindi ko pinansin.
Akin ka.
Na akala ko'y biro niyang maituturing. 1 isang gabi na akala ko sa pelikula lang nangyayari. Ang gabi na habang buhay kong ipagdadalamhati. Kanino ako magsusumbong? Kanino ako hihingi ng tulong? May maniniwala ba sa akin? Anong sasabihin ng pamilya ko? Paano kung matanggal ako sa trabaho? Saan ako tatakbo? Paano ko sisimulan ng laban? Dapat pa nga bang lumaban o subukan na lang kalimutan? May mga tao ba akong masasandalan? Papanig ba sa akin ang timbangan ng babaeng nakapiring? May pag-asa ba akong mahawakan ang hustisya? O ipipikit ang mga mata at tatanggapin na wala, hanggang dito na lang talaga.
Isang pangako ng pag-ahon na dahilan upang pag-asa'y muling umusbong sa puso ng dalagang 18 taon na sa murang edad, sa paglalabay na katuon. Sa wakas, isang trabahong hindi nakadikit ng kusina at malayo umano sa maputik na larawan ng probinsya. Sahod na 50 dolyar kada araw na ni sa panaginip ay hindi ko matanaw. Hindi pa man nahahawakan, nakaplano na ang gasta. Pang-eskwela ni Bunso, pampagamot sa mata ni Mama, wala nang kakayahang tumanggi sa biyaya. Ang anak ng biyudang hindi man lang nakatapos ng elementarya. Mabilis ang pagpayag sa kabila ng mga pangamba. Tansya ko, malapit lang naman siguro ang Saudi Arabia, trabahong nakalaan, computer encoder daw sa umaga. At sa gabi na may tagapag-alaga ng may sakit na matanda. Biyaheng patungo sana sa bansang walang kakilala. Naudlot ng ako'y idinaan sa isang masikip na eskinita. Sandali lang daw dito sa isang silid kung saan walang ibang makita. Liban sa isang lalaking paulit-ulit na sinasabing,
"Wala kaming balak na masama."
At kinuha ng lahat ng mga bagahe kong dala. Walang tinira sa akin, walang laman pati ang butas na bulsa. Walang paraang umalpas, tumakas, humingi ng tulong sa labas. Walang alam pati ang pamilyang pabaon lang ay mga paalala. At wala na ring nagawa nang ako'y iniharap sa kamera. At nangyari na ang lahat ng aking pinangangamba.
"Magubad ka!
Sabi niya.
Bilis! At magsisimula na! May mangyayaring masama sa pamilya mo pag sumuway ka."
Gabi-gabi ang palabas ng 18 taong dalaga para sa lente ng kamera, para sa mga nanunood sa kabila, at gabi-gabi ding nagdarasal na sana bukas ay makawala na, sa mga walang hanggang hiling, sa mga paulit-ulit na panggagahasa. Ito ang kwento ng 18 taong dalaga na hindi malayo sa kwento ng iba pa. Mga babaeng sa isang huwad na pangarap ay umasa at nangangarap na sana bukas ay makawala na.
Ano bang tingin natin sa kababaihan? Bakit mayroon pang nang-aabuso ng kanilang kahinaan? Kahit saan, mayroon silang madilim na nararanasan sa pampublikong sasakyan. So yun ang bayad. Salamat. Makasiksik naman to, akala mo lamig na lamig. Singitan ko kaya? Kaso lang awkward naman.
Tayo may chika sa'yo, manong pwede pa kayo sa'yo?
Sa loob ng paaralan,
Aral, dyan na si Trabaho.
Ang taba-taba nga na eh, ang asim-asim pa. Hindi nga bago yung blondie niya eh.
Aral, dyan na si Trabaho.
Ang taba-taba.
Aral, dyan na si Trabaho.
Ang taba-taba nga niya eh. Ang asim-asim pa. Hindi nga bago yung blondie niya eh.
Miss, okay ka lang? Huwag mo na lang pansinin yung mga yun. Ganun talaga sila eh.
Oo, okay lang.
Maging sa mismong tahanan na siyang ugat dapat ng pagmamahalan. Ngunit may mga bagay na di inaasahan.
Lecheng buhay to. Ako na nga'y nagluluto. Ako pa'y nagtatrabaho. Ako pa'y nagpapaaral. Nakikinig ka ba?
Hoy, ikaw! Ang dami mo sinasabi. Nakalimutan mo yatang ako pa rin yung lalaki sa bahay na to.
Ikaw nga ang lalaki. Wala ka naman silbi.
Matapang ka na? Lumalabang ka na?
Oo! Pa!
Huwag kang makialam dito! Magsama kayo!
Sana maalis natin sa ating yugto ng buhay yung mga ganitong pangyayari. Na sana gamitin natin ang lakas natin hindi para masaktan sila, kundi para maalagaan at bigyang halaga. Isa rin sa kailangan ay ang respeto, dahil kapwa tayo pinanganak ng ating mga ina na siyang unang babae sa ating buhay. Kaya nararapat lamang sa kanila ang mahalin at di ang saktan, kaya tayo na ang kumilos para sa kanila.
Aral! Nakikinig ka ba?
Hoy, ikaw! Ang dami mo sinasabi. Nakalimutan mo yatang ako pa rin yung lalaki sa bahay na to.
Ikaw nga ang lalaki. Wala ka naman silbi.
Matapang ka na? Lumalabang ka na?
Oo! Pa!
Huwag kang makialam dito! Magsama kayo!
Sana maalis natin sa ating yugto ng buhay yung mga ganitong pangyayari. Na sana gamitin natin ang lakas natin hindi para masaktan sila, kundi para maalagaan at bigyang halaga. Isa rin sa kailangan ay ang respeto, dahil kapwa tayo pinanganak ng ating mga ina na siyang unang babae sa ating buhay. Kaya nararapat lamang sa kanila ang mahalin at di ang saktan, kaya tayo na ang kumilos para sa kanila. I-ID ko lang po. Ang cute nyo kasi eh.
Ilang taon pa lang ang lumipas mula ng kanyang ipinangako. Tila binaon na sa limot, walang hanggan pala'y kalbaryo. Pinilit intindihin ng paulit-ulit, pero bukas ganun ulit. Makakalaya pa ba ako sa kanyang pananakit?
Ayon sa 2017 National Demographic and Health Survey ng Philippine Statistics Authority, isa sa bawat 4 na kababaihan sa ating bansa ang nakaranas ng pisikal at sexual na karahasan. Samantalang isa sa bawat 5 naman ang nakaranas ng emosyonal na pang-aabuso mula sa kanilang asawa o o kinakasama. Sa bawat 3 babaeng nakaranas ng pang-aabuso, isa lamang ang humingi ng tulong upang mahinto ang pang-aabuso. Marami sa mga biktima ng karahasan ay hindi na nagre-report sa otoridad dahil sa takot. Takot na lalo pa silang saktan, pahirapan at pagkaitan at madamay ang kanilang anak sa pang-aabuso.
Ngayong panahon ng pandemya, maaaring tumaas ang mga kaso ng pang-aabuso sa kababaihan. Ayon sa datos na nakalap ng National Barangay Operations Office, may mahigit 13,000 kababaihan ang nakaranas ng domestic violence mula March 16, 2020 hanggang November 30, 2020. Hindi natin alam, baka kasama na sa mga numerong ito ang mahal natin sa buhay.
Ang karahasan sa kababaihan ay paglabag sa kanilang karapatang pantao at pagyurak sa kanilang dignidad. Napakahalagang mamulat ang komunidad sa kamalayan at lumalim ang pag-unawa sa mga karapatan ng kababaihan at sa mga batas na pumoprotekta sa kanila mula sa pang-aabuso at diskriminasyon.
Noon, madalas sinasabi na normal na bahagi ng relasyon ng pang-aabuso sa kababaihan. Dahil dito, maraming babae ang hindi nagsasalita tungkol sa pang-aabusong kanilang naranasan mula sa kanilang asawa o kinakasama. Ngayon, itinuturing na isang public crime ang domestic violence o karahasan sa tahanan ayon sa Republic Act 9262. Ibig sabihin, sino mang may personal na impormasyon tungkol sa ganitong uri ng pang-aabuso ay maaari nang magsampa ng kaso.
Tinatakda ng batas ang parusa sa dati o kasalukuyang asawa, live-in partner o karelasyon na gumawa ng pang-aabuso sa kababaihan, pisikal man, sexual, psychological o pinansyal. Importanteng malaman ng mga kababaihan ang mga dapat gawin kung sila ay nakaranas o nakararanas ng pang-aabuso. Humingi ng tulong sa pamilya, kaibigan, kapitbahay o iba pang kakilala upang makalaya mula sa mapang-abusong relasyon. Mag-report sa inyong Barangay Violence Against Women o VAW Desk o pumunta sa pinakamalapit na police station upang matigil ang karahasan.
Kung tayo ay may nakita, narinig o kakilala na nakararanas ng pang-aabuso mula sa kanilang dati o kasalukuyang asawa, live-in partner o karelasyon, tumawag agad sa 911 emergency hotline, police station o sa inyong barangay VAW desk upang makahingi ng agarang tulong.
Ang VAW Desk ay isang pasilidad sa barangay na tumutugon sa mga kaso ng VAW sa paraang gender-sensitive o may respeto sa kasarian. Ang bawat VAW Desk officer ay handang tumulong at tumugon sa mga pangangailangan ng mga biktima ng karahasan, tulad ng pagbibigay ng Barangay Protection Order o BPO, rescue assistance at referral sa ibang ahensya para sa iba pang tulong na kailangan nila, gaya ng legal, police at medical assistance, tulong pangkabuhayan at trabaho, temporary shelter, at iba pa.
Ikaw, ako, lahat tayo ay may magagawa para matigil ang pang-aabuso sa mga kababaihan at sa kanilang mga anak. Maging mapagmatsyag sa mga insidente ng karahasan sa inyong tahanan at komunidad.
Igalang natin ang karapatan ng kababaihan.
Labanan ang karahasan sa kababaihan.
Gawing ligtas ang bawat tahanan. Bigyang halaga ang ating sarili. Hindi mo kailangan magtiis o manahimik sa pang-aabuso. Maraming handang tumulong sa iyo.
Negosyo. Yan ang tingin ng mga kriminal at sindikato ng human trafficking sa mga taong gustong makawala sa kahirapan. Maayos na trabaho, malaking sahod, libreng pag-aaral, pawang kasinungalingan.
Ngayong panahon ng pandemya, marami ang nagipit na pamilya. Sinabayan pa ng sunod-sunod na malalakas na pagbagyo Ilan sa ating mga kabarangay, walang-wala at desperado. Dito namamayagpag ang mga sindikato. Tutulong di umano magbibigay ng trabaho. Yun pala, ikukulong, aalilain, aabusuhin ng paulit-ulit, gagamitin sa krimen, masahol pa sa hayop. Ang pinakamapait, may mga kaso pa na mismong kamag-anak o kaya'y sariling magulang pa ang nabibiktima sa kanilang mga anak.
Mula April 13 hanggang November 10, 2020, mayroong 418 na biktima ng trafficking in persons o TIP ang nasagip ng Interagency Council Against Trafficking.
Walang sino man ang dapat makaranas ng pagdurusa nito. Papayag ka bang may mabiktima pa sa ating mahal sa buhay? Tayong mga nasa barangay, dapat parating mapagbatyag, mapanuri at matalino upang hindi mapasukan ng mga kabataan at sindikato ang ating komunidad at ma-rescue ang mga nangangailangan ng saklolo.
Ano ba ang dapat gawin? Una, siguraduhin mayroong maayos na mekanismo at budget upang pigilan ng human trafficking at alagaan ang mga biktima nito. Kumpleto na ba ang setup ng Barangay Vow Desk at Barangay Council for the Protection of Children? May kumpletong listahan ng residente, lalo na ng kababaihan at kabataan? May situationer na ba ukol sa kababaihan at mga kabataan? May ordinansa na ba para labanan ng TIP? May hotline at social media accounts na ba ang barangay para sa sumbong ng taong bayan?
Ikalawa, umanap ng kakampi. Ipakalat ang impormasyon para pigilan ang TIP. Nagsagawa na ba na advocacy campaign sa mga CSOs, faith-based organizations, samahan ng mga kababaihan at kabataan, group leaders, mga magulang o guardians, volunteers, at iba pa para maging kaisa laban sa TIP? May regular information drive na ba sa komunidad para mapigilan ang illegal recruitment at TIP?
Ikatlo, bantayan ang mga sumusunod na senyales ng human trafficking sa komunidad. Nakatira sa amo na upod ng higpit. Kalunos-lunos at siksikan ang tirahan. Ipinagbabawal ang pakikipag-usap sa iba. May takot sa mukha o kaya'y marka ng pisikal na pang-aabuso. Wala o napakaliit ng sahod. Menor de edad na pinagtatrabaho o nasa prostitusyon. May kasamang iba-ibang bata na hindi kaanak. May nagbabahay-bahay na nangangako ng malaking talaga o sahod. Sunod-sunod ang pag-claim ng pera mula sa remittance centers. Kung sakali may kahinalang mga tao at may mga senyales tulad nito, alam na ba ng mga mamamayan kung ano ang gagawin?
Kahit pa dumaraan tayo sa matinding pagsubok dala ng pandemya, mga sakuna o kaguluhan, walang magiging puwang para sa mga human traffickers kung handa at tulong-tulong ang buong komunidad.
Pangunahan nating mga nasa barangay. Sa atin, unang makita ang malasakit at pagpapahalaga sa karapatan ng ating kapwa, lalo na ang kababaihan at kabataan. Tulungan at gabayan sa pagbangon ang mga nawala ng hanap buhay at pag-asa.
Sa ganitong paraan na ipakikita natin na bawat buhay, bata man o matanda, o kahit may kapansanan, mahalaga.
Hindi tamang inegosyo ang ating kapwa-tao.
Wakasan na ang trafficking in persons. maging bilang babae. Komplikado man ay laging positibo. Natanaw ang makabuluhang pagbabago. Masuko ang karahasan at pang-aabuso. Malipol ang armadong tunggalian. Tumayo, sumigaw, ikalat ang balita. Pantay-pantay lahat, walang pinagkaiba. Nararapat na ipaglaban ng tama. Ang susi ay nasa atin, kababaihan. Ligtas na espasyo para sa batang babae. Tamang pagsasanay at edukasyon ay gamitin. Kalusugan at kagalingan ay di may sandabi. Pangangalaga ng kalikasay ating layunin. Pagtibayin ng dignidad at karapatang pantao. Malayang pagdedesisyon at kapangyarihan. Tumayo, sumigaw, ikalat ang balita. Pantay-pantay lahat, walang pinagkaiba. Nararapat na ipaglaban ng tama. Ang susi ay nasa atin, kababaihan. Pagtataguyod sa pampinansyal na katayuan, ekonomiya at kabuhayan. Mga mekanismong pang-institusyon para sa pagsulong ng kababaihan. Sa media ay ang tamang pagsasalarawan. Tumayo, sumigaw, ikalat ang balita. Pantay-pantay lahat, walang pinagkaiba. Nararapat na ipaglaban ng tama. Ang susi ay nasa atin. Tumayo, sumigaw, ikalat ang balita. Pantay-pantay lahat, walang pinagkaiba. Nararapat na ipaglaban ng tama. Ang susi ay nasa atin, kababaihan. Kababaihan.
Sa isang sulok si Wanda, kahirapan ka sa kanyang daman. At parang balian, sana ay magwakas na karapatang pangtao na ihalad niya. Itong mga programang para kay Wanda, edukasyong pagsali sa ekonomiya. Kaya niyang mamahala sa posisyon at progreso ng pagdedesisyon sa ating bansa. Kahit lang ito'y nagpawangkin, ang landas parang kay Wala. Nalilat ang lawan at tanagin, ang landas para sa tulad kong Wala. Karapatang pagtao'y pantayin, kababaihan ay palakasin, pagtulungan natin kaungarin, natayuan lahat ng Wala. Landas para kay Wala, landas para kay Wala. Turuan ng mekanismo para sa kagulan. Alagaan, kalusugan, kapanatagan. Negating sa media, katuwang ng kalikasan. Mga batang babae ay pag-asa ng bayan. Kailan ito'y ang panawagin, ang landas para kaiwanan. Halina't ang lawan at patagin, ang landas para sa tulad kung walang karapatang pagtao'y pantayin, kababaihan ay palakasin, pagtulungan nating kaulayin, natayuan lahat ng walang. Kahit lahat ay pantay-pantay sa larangang pangkultura, sa kalikasan at ekonomiya. Sa wala ng Diyos tayo ay isa, babae ay isama, sa panlipunan ng politika. Dahil na ito'y ang panawagin, ang landas para kaiwanan. Halina't ang lawan at patagin, ang landas para sa tulad kung walang karapatang pagtao'y pangkain, kababaihan ay palakasin, pagtulungan nating kaulayin, natayuan lahat ng walang karapatang pagtao'y pangkain, kababaihan ay palakasin, pagtulungan nating kaulayin, natayuan lahat ng walang landas para kaiwanan, landas para kaiwanan. Juana, 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 na na. Si Juana, nagmula ang buhay na ipinula, na siyang dumami at kumalat sa lupang malaya. Dahil sa'yo, may buhay ang ating mundo. Dahil sa'yo, may pag-ibig ang bawat puso. Juana, Juana, ikaw ang aking bida. Sunod sa mong bayan, sa'yo'y umaasa. Iyan ika'y bigyan ng lakas, respeto at pagmamahal na wagas. Karapatan mo ay dapat ingatan, lahat ay pantay, pantay sa lipunan. Juana, 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 ikaw ang aking bida. Juana, 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 ikaw ay mahalaga. Juana, babae ka, di ka mahina. Ano man ang kanilang kaya mo rin po na. Pantay na pagtingin sa'yo ay ituring. Bawat isa ay mayroong kakayahang king. Juana, Juana, ikaw ang aking bida. Sunod sa mong bayan, sa'yo'y umaasa. Iyan ika'y bigyan ng lakas, respeto at pagmamahal na wagas. Karapatan mo ay dapat ingatan, lahat ay pantay, pantay sa lipunan. Juana, 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 ikaw ang aking bida. Juana, Juana, lumapit sa gitna ng kaguluhan, maging malayang ka sa anumang karahasan. Ang tulad mo'y inaahon sa kahirapan, dahil ika'y babae may taglay na karapatan. Dapat bahagi ka ng anumang larangas, papapasaya ekonomiya at kapangyarihan. Kaya't pagyamanin ang iyong kaalaman, pagtatagin at patibayin ang iyong kalusugan. Dapat kinikilala ang iyong kahalagahan, sa kahit anumang media ay pinag-uusapan. Bawat imahe mo may dignidad na nakalaan, dahil pagiging babae mo isang kadakilaan. Sa pagsulong at pagpunad ng ating bayan, kakayahan mo mag-ambag ay kailangan. Ika'y katulong sa pagpanday ng ating lipunan, tungo sa isang magandang kinabukasan. Juana, Juana, ikaw ang aking bida. Juana, Juana, ikaw ang aking bida. Sumasamang bayan, sa'yo'y umaasa. Kaya ika'y bigyan ng lakas, respeto tayong mamahal na wagas. Karapatan mo'y dapat ingatan, lahat ay pantay, pantay sa lipunan. Wala, 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 ikaw ang aking bida. Wala, 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 ikaw ay mahalaga. Wala, 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 wala. Juana, 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 Juana.
Vow advocates, thank you for joining us in the Safe Spaces Kasali Tayo online events for the 2021 18-day campaign to end vow. Narito ang mga house rules na dapat sundin. This is a safe space, kaya't dapat maging magalang sa ating mga komento at interaksyon sa online forum dahil ang Filipino ay marespeto. Para sa ating game mamaya, siguraduhin na inyong susundin ang instructions para sa mga kwalipikadong mananalo. Kung may katanungan, maaari itong i-post sa comment section. Bibigyan natin ng pagkakataon ang resource persons na sagutin ito sa open forum. Maring makuha ang kopya ng presentation materials ng mga speakers sa 18-day campaign to end vow webpage sa www.pcw.gov.ph. We will issue a certificate of participation only to those who will submit or accomplish the following: attendance form and activity feedback form, Ipapaliwanag po namin maya-maya ito. Sa ngayon, maaari nyo na pong ma-access sa mga attendance form sa text description ng ating live stream. Follow PCW social media accounts at PCW.gov.ph sa Facebook at Twitter at mag-subscribe din sa PCW YouTube channel. Share the live stream so we can reach more participants. Maraming salamat. Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. I am Naomi Tiburcio, your host and moderator for today's session. Happy Friday to everyone and welcome po sa ating session today, Aral at Trabaho, Hindi Pang-aabuso. Safe spaces in the workplace, educational and training institutions. We are streaming live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. We are also glad to be with our partner, Filipino Sign Language interpreters from DepEd Philippines, Coach Patrick and Coach Roxanne. I am very happy to join you today, lalo na't nalalapit na tayo sa last day ng 18-day campaign to end violence against women. I hope marami kayong natutunan in the past few days. We are currently on the 16th day nitong advokasya headed by the Philippine Commission on Women to finally put an end to gender-based violence. Violence against women or any gender-based violence has a long history. Kumbaga, malalim ang ugat kaya't hindi ito pwede mawala sa isang iglap. Para sa bansang Pilipinas, this is a continuing process and we are glad na kahit papaano ay nakikita na yung improvements pagdating sa pagiging sensitibo ng bawat isa against gender-based harassment or violence. This is exactly the reason why hindi natitigil at taon-taong ginagawa ang mga inisyatibo upang magbigay kaalaman laban sa iba't ibang paraan ng pang-aabuso sa mga kababaihan. And for today, we will focus on how to ensure na ligtas ang mga kababaihan sa mga lugar kung saan sila hinuhubog at natututo. Mula yan sa mga workplaces hanggang sa mga paaralan. Dahil kahit nasa pandemya tayo, the threat against women remains. Alam ko po excited na tayong simulan ang ating talakayan today, pero bago yan, maglaan muna tayo ng ilang sandali para sa ating anti-vow prayer at pag-awit ng lupang hinirap.
As we observe the 18-day campaign to end violence against women or VOW from November 25th to December 12th, we ask you, Lord, to look with kindness upon all of us who are gathered here. Fill our hearts and minds with love, wisdom, and courage as we face our daily lives. We pray for all women and girls who suffer from domestic violence, rape, incest, sexual harassment, trafficking, prostitution, and other forms of violence. May they have the courage to break their silence, find protection, healing, and justice. We pray for the perpetrators of VOW that they may learn to respect women and girls and stop the violence. O loving Father and Mother, send us your Spirit so that everything that we do will be done with love and respect for our fellow humans. Regardless of age, sex, class, ethnicity, and ability, O powerful God, develop in us a high regard for the thoughts, feelings, and experiences of everyone, and bestow on us the capacity to promote, protect, and fulfill the rights of women and girls. Almighty Creator, grant us the strength to stand up against all forms of violence happening to women and girls, the sharpness to recognize a silenced victim of VOW, the courage to speak up against VOW, the resourcefulness to help a victim of VOW, and the resolve to never commit any form of VOW. For all of this, we implore your guidance. Amen.
Noon pa man, malaki na ang naging bahagi ng mga kababaihan sa lipunang Pilipino. Kaisa sila sa marubdob na paghahangad ng kalayaan ng ating lahi. Kabilang sila sa paglinang ng ating makulay na sining at mayamang kultura. Kasapi sila sa pagtataguyod ng mga adhikain ng kapwa mamamayan at sa pagtugon sa mga pangangailangan ng lipunan. Katuwang sila sa pagtuklas sa mga larangan ng agham at medisina. Kapanalig sila sa pagpapairal ng batas, karapatan at katarungan para sa lahat. Kabahagi sila sa paglilingkod sa bayan at sa pagpapanatili ng demokrasyang Pilipino. Sa paglipas ng panahon, hindi nagmaliw ang kanilang pag-ibig sa ating inang bayan. Mga kababayan, ito ang alay ng mga kababaihang Pilipino para sa bayan. Tumayo po tayong lahat at sabay-sabay nating awitin ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Ayaw mag-ibig, pero sa silangan, alam ng puso, sa dilim mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, gulat na ng mag-ibig, sa manlulupin, di ka magsisigil, sa lahat ng lulok, sa sigahan, sa langit mong babang, may ginagang tula at awit sa paglayang minamahal. Ang isang ng patawad mo'y tagumpay na naglilingin, ang bituin at araw ng kailan
And to officially welcome us and get us pumped up for today's session, let's hear the opening remarks of the Deputy Executive Director for Management Services of the Philippine Commission on Women, Ms. Cecile Gutierrez. DD Cecile, hello po, and please go ahead.
Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. It is my singular honor and pleasure to welcome you all to this last, but certainly not the least, episode of the Safe Spaces Kasali Tayo online events. Nagpapasalamat ang Philippine Commission on Women sa lahat ng nakibahagi at patuloy na nakikiisa sa 2021 18-day campaign to end violence against women and children, mula sa mga iba't ibang ahensya ng gobyerno, civil society organizations, hanggang sa pribadong sektor. Sa ating nakaraang online fora, nagkaroon tayo ng makabuluhang diskusyon ukol sa Safe Spaces Act at naging malalim ang ating usapin ukol sa gender-based sexual harassment sa pampublikong lugar at online. This afternoon, we shall focus on gender-based sexual harassment at work and in school. Mahalagang maipaliwanag ito dahil pinalawig ng Safe Spaces Act ang sakop ng gender-based sexual harassment sa mga espasyong nabanggit. Sa ilalim kasi ng batas na ito, tinatanggal na ang elemento ng authority, influence, o moral ascendancy. Ibig sabihin, maaari na tayong makapagreklamo, lalo na ang mga biktima, mas mataas man, kapantay, o mas mababa ang katungkulan ng nang-aabuso. Inilatag din ng batas na ito ang mas komprehensibong tungkulin ng mga employers at pamunuan ng mga eskwelahan o institusyon para masigurong may malalapitan ang mga biktima ng sexual harassment at maaaksyonan ang bawat reklamo. Hinihikayat po namin kayo na makinig at sumali sa diskusyon ng ating mga resource persons mula sa Civil Service Commission, Department of Labor and Employment, Department of Education, Commission on Higher Education at Technical Education and Skills Development Authority or TESDA. Umaasa po kami na sa ganitong mga talakayan, hintay na magkakaroon pa ng puwang ang pambabastos sa lahat ng puok gawaan at paaralan kung saan dapat ang bida ay, quote-unquote, aral at trabaho, hindi pang-aabuso. Akma rin ang ating aktibidad ngayong araw sa International Human Rights Day na ginugunita tuwing ika-10 ng Disyembre bilang pag-alala sa pagkakatatag ng United Nations sa Universal Declaration of Human Rights noong taong 1948. Sa araw na ito, ating sinusulong na ang bawat tao ay may karapatang dapat maprotektahan, anuman ang kasarian, kulay, lahi o estado sa buhay. Kadugtong din nito ang ating advokasya para sa isang vow-free community, violence against women and children-free community, kung saan dapat lahat ay pantay-pantay at malaya sa anumang uri ng diskriminasyon, pang-aabuso o pambabastos. Ang bawat manggagawa, empleyado, boss, guro, estudyante, trainer o trainee, protektado lahat ang karapatang pantao sa ilalim ng Safe Spaces Act. Malapit nang magtapos ang mga aktibidades natin ngayong taon para sa 18-day campaign to end violence against women and children. Pero sana, hindi po natatapos sa 18 araw ang ating advokasya. Maging aktibo at porsigido sana tayong lahat sa pagsusulong at pagsisiguro ng isang Pilipinas kung saan walang taong nabibiktima ng anumang klase ng harassment sa lahat ng panahon. Alam kong excited na kayong makinig o makipagtalastasan sa forum na ito, kaya di ko nahahabaan pa mga kasama sa advokasya. Maraming salamat at magandang hapon sa inyong lahat.
Much, Didi Cecil. Sabi nga po ni Didi, dapat magtulungan tayo para maabot natin ang layunin ng advokasiyang ito, a vow-free community. Now, before we get into the core of our sessions today, syempre, pag-game muna. Sa mga tumutok po sa past 2 episodes natin, siguradong kabisado nyo na ang ating palaro. Mula sa hashtag #FindMalaya at hashtag #FindJetty, today we are calling our game Find Jermaine. Si Jermaine po ang character na ginagamit ng Philippine Commission on Women na sumisimbolo sa gender mainstreaming. Sa mga first time marinig ito, ang gender mainstreaming ay isang strategy para masiguro na ang mga pangangailangan ng lahat ng kasarian ay naisasaalang-alang sa bawat programa, proyekto at serbisyo ng gobyerno. Kumbaga, no gender is left behind. Ayan, makikita po ninyo ang itsura ni Jermaine sa inyong screens. Narito ang mechanics na dapat sundin. Una, tumutok sa buong session at abangan ang paglabas ni Jermaine sa screen. Bawat pagpapakita ni Jermaine ay may letrang katumbas hanggang sa mabuo natin ang word for the day. Pangalawa, dapat mapictura ng bawat labas ni Jermaine at mabuo ang word for the day. Tandaan na maaring magpakita si Jermaine sa kahit anong bahagi man ng programa, mapa-presentation o video. Pangatlo, i-upload ang inyong screenshot o larawan ni Jermaine sa inyong personal Facebook account. Tandaan, dapat kompleto ang inyong photos at mabuo ang word for the day. Dapat din po nakapublic ang inyong post at meron itong hashtag na #FindJermaine with the word for the day. Halimbawa, kung ang word na nabuo ay empower, dapat ang hashtag ay #FindJermaineEmpower. Pang-apat, amin pong isasama ang lahat ng makikita naming entries mula sa hashtag sa aming Wheel of Names at sa dulo ng ating programa. Isispin po namin yan para malaman ang ating winners for the day. Paalala po, para bigyan ng chance ang ating mga partners and stakeholders, hindi po pwedeng sumali sa ating game ang mga empleyado ng PCW. Yan po ang mechanics ng hashtag #FindJermaine natin for today. Patalasin ang mata so you can find Jermaine. At dumako na tayo sa ating main discussion, ang ating first session na trabaho lang, walang bastusan. No to sexual harassment in the workplace. To talk about this, we are honored to welcome our resource person for today, Attorney Benjo Santos M. Benavidez. Attorney Benjo is currently the Undersecretary for Labor Relations, Social Protection and Policy Support Cluster of the Department of Labor and Employment. Nagsimula po ang kanyang career sa DOLE noong 2008 bilang mediator arbiter. Mula 2014 hanggang 2019, nagsilbi siya bilang Assistant Regional Director ng DOLE Bureau of Labor Relations. Yusek Benavidez is also one of the driving forces during the consultation and formulation of the Safe Spaces Acts, implementing rules and regulations. Let's send our heart reactions for Yusek Benjo.
Maraming salamat sa ating host for this webinar session. First and foremost, I would like to greet everyone. Good afternoon. Sana po ay nasa ligtas po tayong kalagayan at nasa panahon pa po ng pandemya. Before I proceed, the department would like also to extend our gratitude to the Philippine Commission on Women for inviting us to this webinar. It is so fitting to talk and learn about Republic Act 11313 on the occasion of the International Human Rights Day. Ngayon po yun, December 10. And as part of our 18-day campaign to end violence against women. But bago po ako magpatuloy, would anyone here know why is it an 18-day campaign rather than a 20 or 30-day campaign? Why not a 16-day campaign like many countries around the globe do have? Sa ibang bansa po, actually, ang pagkakaalam ko po, the international campaign is for 16 days. Baka sino po kaya dito ang nakakaalam kung bakit? Pero bago po natin siguro sagutin yon, magtatrabaho po muna ako because my slot is just for 10 minutes. And at the outset, for the record, the DOL would like to make a statement that we condemn all forms of harassment in the workplace, including sexual harassment, especially gender-based sexual harassment. Section 16 of Republic Act 1131 defines the crime of gender-based sexual harassment in the workplace, but provides no specific criminal penalty therefore. Gender-based sexual harassment in the workplace are acts or series of acts and conducts. These are acts or conducts that involve any unwelcome sexual advances, request, or demand for sexual favor, or conduct of sexual nature. Gender-based sexual harassment may be committed anywhere, kahit saang lugar, in any manner, either verbally, physically, or through the use of technology. Ngayon po, uso na yung social media as well as cellphone. By anyone. So, gender-based sexual harassment may be committed anywhere, in any manner, by anyone, to anybody. We are therefore all potential victims and potential perpetrators for this specific crime. Whether you are a worker and employers, regardless of exercise of control, influence, or authority, and of course, their representative of employers. Under Republic Act 11313, Section 17 in particular, employers are duty bearers. Their duties include the dissemination of the copy of the law. So obligasyon po ng mga employer, lalong-lalo na sa pribadong sektor, na i-disseminate yung kopya ng batas at ito po ay i-post sa mga conspicuous places. Another duty imposed to employers is the provision of preventive gender-based sexual harassment-related measures, the creation of an independent internal mechanism or the CODI. Ito po yung Committee on Decorum and Investigation. Aside from that, employers are also duty-bound to develop and disseminate a code of conduct or workplace policy. Employers are liable for criminal fine for non-compliance with Section 17 of Republic Act 11313. Like employers, I would like to stress this, like employers, employees too have duties under Republic Act 11313. But unlike employers, they cannot be held criminally liable for violation of Section 18 unless the act or conduct constitutes the crime of gender-based sexual harassment. However, employees may be administratively held liable if, instead of refraining, the employee persists on committing acts of gender-based sexual harassment. If, instead of discouraging, employees are encouraging the conduct of gender-based sexual harassment in the workplace. They may be held liable if, instead of providing emotional or social support, the employee disregards co-employees or co-workers or their colleagues in the workplace. And lastly, employees may be held administratively liable if, instead of reporting, the employees are concealing acts of gender-based sexual harassment witnessed in the workplace. Administrative liability may be in the form of warning, so wawarningan lang, or censure, or the imposition of fine, or even transfer from one unit to another or from one department to another. Demotion, so pwede pong ma-demote. And worst, dismissal. Pwedeng ikatanggal yung failure ng mga manggagawa dun sa kanyang mga obligasyon na nakaatang sa kanya under the law. But there has to be, of course, a proper procedure in compliance with the constitutional right of due process. To ensure compliance of employers and their employees, establishments are subject to the regulations of the Department of Labor and Employment through inspection. Actually, all establishments, including micro-enterprises in the private sector, are subject to the regulatory functions of the department. In fact, Republic Act 11313 and its implementing rules and regulation, the DOLE is mandated to conduct a yearly spontaneous, random, and unannounced inspection. The DOLE is also mandated under the IRR to develop guidelines on the provision of appropriate mechanism and intervention for employees covered by Republic Act 10361. Ito po yung mga kababayan po nating kasambahay. Alam nyo po, ang ating pong mga kasambahay ay manggagawa din. They are also exposed to sexual harassment and gender-based sexual harassment. Although hindi po natin ini-inspect ang mga kabahayan. Kaya mayroon po tayong mga ibang mekanismo para po sila ay matulungan. Ganon din po yung mga empleyado in the informal economy. But these establishments under the informal economy are also subject to inspection by the Department of Labor and Employment. Ganon din po ang mga manggagawa ng mga enterprises o establishmento na meron lamang 10 o merong hindi hihigit sa 10 empleyado. In this regard, allow me to share to this group that DOLE already issued the guidelines on support for workers in the informal economy under Republic Act 11313. We have also the guidelines on the collection of administrative data on gender-based sexual harassment cases and complaints. Alam niyo po, napaka-importante na meron po tayong datos ng mga kaso, ng mga reports patungkol po sa gender-based sexual harassment na idinudulog sa aming kagawaran. And to this end, we developed the online system on collecting, reporting, and management of gender-based sexual harassment data. Tinatawag po namin itong DOLE Safe Spaces System. Nakapag-develop po kami sa tulong na rin po ng aming mga kawani. As our next steps, we will complete the updating of the inspection checklist since kailangan po talaga naming mag-inspect. And in the near future, we shall also be resuming our massive inspection of establishment. Nitong mga nakaraang buwan, nag-i-inspect po kami, pero alam naman po natin may mga limitasyon, lalong-lalo na nung unang bahagi ng pandemya sa aming mga gawain para puntahan ang mga establishments. To many, sa karamihan, the regulatory functions or the regulatory inspection of the department are burdens. But to us, in the Department of Labor and Employment, this is what we are mandated to do. Ika nga, trabaho lang. Indeed, trabaho lang, walang bastusan. Maraming salamat at magandang hapon po sa ating lahat.
Thank you. To refresh ang speech ni Yusek Benjo, we are all potential victims and perpetrators of sexual harassment, worker ka man o employer. At maraming duties ang employer to make sure hindi ito mangyayari at lalaganap. And to name these, number 1 is to disseminate copy of law to all persons in workplace and conspicuous places. Number 2 is discourage sexual harassment. Number 3 is provide emotional and social support to employees, peers na nagiging biktima o naging biktima ng sexual harassment. And number 4, lastly, dapat po nire-report ang mga kaso ng gender-based harassment at hindi po hinahayaan lamang. Employers can be liable kapag hindi ito sinunod. Mag-ingat din po ang mga employers dahil mahigpit ang DOLE in ensuring na hindi ito nakakalimutan ng mga employers through random and surprise inspections. At para sa mga katanungan, i-post nyo lang po sa comment section ang inyong mga tanong at bibigyan po natin ng pagkakataon si Yusek Benjo na sagutin yan mamaya-maya lamang. Mula sa private sector, pumunta naman tayo sa government sector. Joining us today to discuss the protection measures for those in the civil service, we are pleased to have Attorney Maricar Mon-Cancino, Division Chief of the Civil Service Commission, Office for Legal Affairs. And babad na babad po sa advokasya laban sa sexual harassment si Attorney Maricar. She is active in various committees related to addressing GBSH. She sat as the CSU representative in the drafting of the Safe Spaces Act IRR. CSU representative in crafting bills in Comprehensive Anti-Discrimination Act, SOGI bills, and FOI bills. Sa ngayon, siya na rin ang permanent representative ng Komisyon sa Interagency Oversight Committee on the Safe Spaces Act o IAO-CSSA. Hello po, Attorney Maricar. The screen is yours. Attorney, please press unmute. Unmute po.
Yan. So, good afternoon again, everyone. On the part of the Civil Service Commission, even before the enactment of the Safe Spaces Act, we already have the admin rules on sexual harassment. So, after the enactment ng Safe Spaces Act, we have amended our administrative rules on sexual harassment accordingly and pursuant to the provisions of the Safe Spaces Act. So, ano ba yung mga bago dito sa ating administrative rules on sexual harassment? Of course, unang-una, yung definition ng sexual harassment. Before, dun sa lumang rules on administrative SH natin, which is incorporated sa 2017 RACS, ang definition ng SH doon ay any unwelcome sexual advance, request, or demand for a sexual favor or other verbal or physical behavior. So hanggang physical or verbal lang siya. Ngayon, dito sa expanded definition ng SH, admin SH natin, sinama natin yung online sexual harassment and sexual harassment in streets and public spaces. So, mas malawak siya, mas comprehensive, mas malawak na yung pwedeng yung mga offenses na makumit sa pamamagitan ng sexual harassment at yung mga complaints na ipa-file sa admin sexual harassment. Also, doon sa lumang admin SH kasi natin, yun nga, tinitake into consideration natin hindi na natin tinitake into consideration kung sino yung offender, the victim, or complainant. Dito, walang moral ascendancy regardless kung yung complaint is against the superior, supervisor, or subordinate. So, wala nang moral ascendancy required. So, yun yung admin rules on SH natin ngayon. Also, on the composition of CODI, pursuant nga sa provisions ng Safe Spaces Act, inire-require na natin na yung CODI must be headed by a woman and majority of its members should also be a woman kasi yun yung naka-provide doon sa Safe Spaces Act. So, kailangan yung mga prevailing na composition ng CODI natin, baguhin din natin pursuant sa provisions ng Safe Spaces Act. Also, dito sa bagong rules natin on SH, admin SH, meron din provision doon sa duties and responsibilities of the CODI. First and foremost, hindi lang yung pag-investigate or pag-handle ng complaints on SH. Meron na din silang duty to provide assistance sa lahat ng complainants or victims ng SH, either to provide counseling or refer sila sa professional, sa mga professional help ganyan before filing ng complaints for SH. Also, yung pinaka-importante dito, to ensure or guarantee yung protection of the victims ng SH against retaliation. Kasi 'di ba, kadalasan na mga victims or yung mga nagpa-file ng complaints ng SH, nagdadalawang isip sila bago sila mag-file kasi baka balikan sila or yung may retaliation on the part nung, especially if the offender or yung kakasuhan nila is superior or mas mataas sa kanila. So yun yung mga fear nila. So that is why under the new rules on SH, meron tayong provision doon for the CODI to ensure protection ng mga victims or mga complainants ng SH against retaliation, pagdating sa conditions ng employment or mga benefits, mga ganyan. So yan yung isa sa duties and responsibilities ng CODI under the new rules on SH natin. And also, there is also a provision doon sa duties and responsibilities ng heads of the agencies. Kasi di ba doon sa Safe Spaces Act natin, mayroong provision doon regarding sa duties ng mga heads of agencies to prevent as much as possible yung commission ng SH under this law. So doon sa ating admin rules on SH, inadapt natin to. So may nakalagay dito sa bagong resolution natin for the heads of the agencies to ensure na magkaroon ng dissemination dun sa provisions ng ating new law and magkaroon din ng enough trainings para sa mga employees within the agency, of course, to prevent further commission ng offenses under these rules. Meron din doon provisions na pwedeng makasuhan yung head of the agency ng neglect of duty if he or she fails to act sa complaints ng SH. May provisions yan doon. So pwedeng kasuhan si head of the agency kung hindi siya nag-act accordingly or may delay doon sa action doon sa mga final na SH complaints sa kanya. And then, yung pinaka, dito, yung to ensure, meron din siyang to ensure that there are enough members ng CODI to handle yung mga SH cases. Kasi kadalasan ata na nagiging problema kaya na-delay yung pag-hear and pag-decide ng mga SH cases is yung there is no sufficient number or members ng CODI. That is why under this law, in sa SH rules natin, admin rules on SH, nilagay natin dito na the head of the agency should guarantee that there are enough members ng CODI just in case merong mag-inhibit or merong conflict doon sa duties niya as member ng CODI. So just in case siya yung member ng CODI mag-inhibit kasi siya yung nag-file ng complaint or siya yung pinailan, so meron yung responsibility yung head of the agency na kailangan pag may nag-inhibit or nakulang yung members ng CODI, merong kaagad papalit sa kanya para hindi tumagal yung pag-hear or pag-investigate nung complaint for SH. So that yun yung mga bago dito sa ating admin rules on SH, yung sa duties and responsibilities ng CODI and the head of the agency. Also, there is a provision na rin dito sa ating bagong rules, pursuant din dun sa ating Safe Spaces Act, for the CSC to conduct periodic review to ensure compliance of all government offices and other agencies in accordance with the guidelines provided under the Prime HRM. So meron na yan, kasama na yan sa periodic review na gagawin ng CSC sa mga lahat ng government agencies and offices na nag-comply sila doon sa provisions ng Safe Spaces Act as regards yung duties and responsibilities ng CODI as well as the head of the agency. Dapat in-ensure na yung mga provisions ng batas na nagagawa ng CODI and also yung head of the agency, especially yung dissemination and yung mga trainings pagdating sa batas na to para ma-prevent yung further commission ng mga acts provided under the law and under the administrative rules on SH. So basically, ito yun yung mga important amendments sa ating administrative rules on sexual harassment. Ito pala yung CSC Resolution 210064, circularized siya through CSCMC number 11, series of 2021, published on May 17, 2021. So took effect siya 15 days after its publication, I think June 2, 2021. So ito na po yung bagong rules on admin SH natin sa lahat ng government offices and agencies. So basically, yun yung important amendments sa ating rules on SH. Thank you.
Lang po natin ang speech ni Attorney Maricar, and the CSC through the Safe Spaces Act has ensured na may enough safeguard for the victims of sexual harassment. CSC will also conduct periodic review sa compliance sa lahat ng government agencies sa Safe Spaces Act. And ngayon, kakatapos lang nitong first portion ng ating mga speakers, pero napakarami na nating natutunan. But at the same time, marami pa rin questions. And as of now, we receive a few questions from our viewers. If our speakers are ready to accept questions, ito po yung ating question number 1. Our question number 1 is, I'm working in a foreign company with branch in the Philippines. My male employer, who is based in Singapore, has been sending me messages with sexual undertones almost every day, which I find offensive and degrading. How do I report this action, considering that he is a foreign national who resides in his home country? So to our speakers, sino kaya ang pwedeng makasagot? Maybe Yusek Benjo, can you answer this question po?
Yeah, thank you. I can take that question. But to respond to this very specific question, I would like to state a very fundamental principle in law, and that is on the territoriality of crimes or offenses. For that to prosper, there has the crime or one of the elements of the crime must have been committed within the jurisdiction of the Philippines. But having said that, this law, gender-based sexual harassment, may actually give rise to several obligations. One, criminal obligation. Second, civil obligation. And third, of course, administrative obligation. But let me go specifically to the criminal obligation. At first glance, sa tingin parang at first glance, titingnan natin baka walang jurisdiction ang Philippine courts over this particular act, which is constitutive of the crime of gender-based sexual harassment. But I think ang isa sa mga o dalawa sa mga offenses o rather elements are being committed in the Philippines, and hence may jurisdiction po ang ating Philippine courts. There is already a decision on this matter na yung offender ay nasa Singapore din at yung offended party ay nandito. This is on Bausi. And the Supreme Court decided that the trial court or the crime, one of the elements of the crime was committed in the Philippines, and hence we have jurisdiction. For this particular case, I am of the opinion that since may jurisdiction po ang Philippine courts, yung offended party may wish to report the same to the nearest police station for the appropriate investigation. Pwede po siyang mag-file ng complaint. If she or he wishes, pwede po siyang mag-file na ng criminal complaint before our prosecutor's office. With respect naman po dun sa civil liabilities, I think that will be carried dun po sa kaso niya na ifa-file for criminal prosecution. But on the third aspect of administrative liability, wala po tayo paano po niya i-dismiss o i-suspend yung kanyang employer because he is the employer. But for this specific case, siguro ang pinakamabuti, mag-file na lang po ng appropriate complaint either with the PNP or DOJ. That's my 5 cents. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yusek Benjo. And we have another question. This question number 2 is, he said po is, gay po ako and lagi akong hinaharas ng mga kapwa call center agents ko. Masakit po ang mga jokes nila at hindi ko na kinaya, kaya nag-decide na lang ako mag-resign. Pero hanggang ngayon, ginugulo pa rin nila ako sa Facebook and Twitter. According to my employer, they could not do anything about it because I have already resigned. Pwede na po ba ako mag-file o pwede pa po ba ako mag-file ng complaint? To our speakers who can answer?
Yeah, I think this is also mine because this concerns an employee in the private sector. And as I mentioned a while ago, the law will give rise to several liabilities, criminal, civil, and administrative liability. For the administrative liability, I think even if he or she has already resigned, pwede pa po siyang sumulat o mag-file ng complaint against his or her co-worker. Kasalanan po yun at violation po yun ng Republic Act 11313. And with respect to the criminal offense, nandito lang naman po siya sa Pilipinas, pwede po siyang magsampa ng reklamo against his or her previous co-worker.
Okay, thank you, Yusek Benjo. Attorney Maricar, baka po may maidadagdag po kayo kung sakaling nangyari po ito sa isang victim na working under a government agency.
Yes, and also dapat i-take into consideration din ng employer na under the law, may duty sila na to prevent yung further commission ng SH. And also kapag sa government service ito nangyari, ang admin cases kasi walang prescriptive period yan. So regardless kung gaano katagal yung nangyari, kahit wala na siya sa government service, pwede pa rin mag-file ng kahit hindi SH, any admin case against doon sa any government official or employee na nakakommit ng admin offense.
Okay po, thank you po Attorney Maricar and Yusek Benjo. At malinaw po yan, kahit po umalis na kayo sa kumpanya, pwede pa rin po makapag-file ng complaint. And for our question number 3, ito po ang sinabi niya, I reported to our CODI the sexual harassment I experienced from my employee, for my co-employee. And kinausap lang ng aming CODI is yung taong nireklamo ko at inilapit lang siya ng seksyon. Hindi na nila kami pinagharap o pinag-usap. Mas matagal na kasi siya sa company. Ako wala pang 5 months. Mag-report na lang daw po ako ulit pag may ginawa pa siya. Makatarungan po ba ang action ng Cody namin? To our speakers po.
Okay, thank you for that question. But I don't want to pass judgment kung makatarungan o hindi. I just want to say that there is inaction on the part of the Cody, which inaction is a violation of the law as well as the implementing rules and regulation. And for such violation, meron po yung kaakibat na penalty. So sa tingin ko po dito, maaaring pwedeng managot yung mga miyembro po ng Cody.
Okay po. And may nadagdag po ulit na isa pang question. This is question number 4. Ang kanya pong sinabi is, paano kung sa paniniwala ng biktima ay biased ang desisyon ng employer o management sa harassment complaint? Pwede po bang idiretso ito sa korte? For speakers?
I would like to better understand the question. Well, yung sexual harassment, gender-based sexual harassment is based po ito dun sa paniniwala ng biktima. Kung sa paniniwala po niya o kaya ang feeling po niya ay ito po ay unwelcome sexual behavior at na-offend po siya, ay this is an actionable wrong. Which actionable wrong, again, meron pong criminal, civil, and administrative liability. So, pero hindi po kasi ito pwedeng idiretso sa korte kasi may mga proseso po tayo in criminal prosecution.
Okay po. Thank you, Yusek Benjo. And I guess this is our last question for this part. Question number 5 is, sabi po niya, is for Attorney Cancino, who will designate po sa Cody members? May validity po ba ang Cody or term/period? Thank you po.
Yes, yung membership ng Cody under sa admin rules natin, dapat yan may representative from each rank, one from the management, sa supervisory level, ganyan, and union if any. And then, yung term of office is not more than 2 years. Yun po yung nakalagay sa rules natin.
Okay.
And
habol po na question.
Yan, as discussed nga earlier, yun yung pala yung bagong provisions doon sa admin rules natin. Yung membership na dapat yung head is woman and not and dapat more than half ganyan is babae.
Okay. Thank you po, Attorney. And there's another question po to anyone who can answer. Are there clear-cut parameters to define what sexual harassment is? Is it not subjective in nature depending on one's perception of an incident while considered to be sexual harassment to some but not sexual harassment to others' view? To anyone who can answer po.
Well, ang tinitingnan po ditong perspektibo, yung perspektibo po ng biktima, not yung perpetrator.
Yes, I agree kay Yusek. Sa SH kasi it's based on the perception of the victim, the complainant. So regardless of the motive nung offender.
Okay po. Thank you po to both Yusek Benjo and Attorney Maricar. And thank you so much to our active audience also for their questions. And thank you again, Yusek Benjo and Attorney Maricar, for your answers. Now, let's have a short breather for a bio break and coffee time. While we have 2 days left for the campaign, we encourage you to still join our online advocacies. You can take on our hashtag Do the Macho Choir Challenge, and you can sing, act, dance, and just give your creative spin sa Macho Choir. Ang aming radio plugs against catcalling. At gusto nyo ba ng sample? Well, here it is.
Paa, tuhod, balik at ulo, itapwetan, baywang at sus. Huwag mong titigan ang hindi sa'yo at maging disenteng tao.
Ang sumitsit ay panghangmang,
ang sumipol ay panghunghang, ang babae sa lansangan, huwag hiritan kundi galang. Chong, 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 pasipol, sipol, mga manong sa labas, magtigil at gumalang, kaya ikaw sara bibig kung di maganda ang lalabas. Chong, 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 pasipol, sipol, mga manong sa labas, magtigil at gumalang, kaya ikaw sarap bibig kung di maganda ang lalabas.
Pare, ang catcalling ay isang uri ng sexual harassment. Di biro ang sexual harassment at hindi nakakamacho ang pang-aabuso.
Bibig kung di maganda ang lalabas.
Isang paalala mula sa Philippine Commission on Women.
Yes, tamang-tama. Hindi nakakamacho ang catcalling. Napakahusay. Sa mga wala pa pong entries, pwede po kayong humabol. You can check the mechanics on our website and social media accounts at PCW.gov.ph. And you're still watching Aral at Trabaho, Hindi Pang-aabuso, Safe Spaces in the Workplace, Educational and Training Institutions. Ito po ay bahagi ng ating 18-day campaign against VAO. We are streaming live on Facebook and share this online event sa inyong family or friends para mas lumawak pa ang ating kalaman in ensuring safe spaces for everyone. Now that we're done with our short break, let's go to our second session na In Class, Have Class, Ending Sexual Harassment in Educational and Training Institutions. Habang hinaharap natin ang pandemya, unti-unti nang nagbubukas sa mga paaralan para sa limited face-to-face classes habang may iba pa na online pa rin magklase. Pero physical o online man, walang puwang ang pambabastos o karahasan. To talk about this, we have our Director Jocelyn D.R. Andaya. Director Andaya joined the Department of Education in 2012 and she is now serving as the Director of the Bureau of Curriculum Development. Siya rin po ay isang writer, speaker at resource person on strategic planning, curriculum, leadership, and management. Siya rin ang umuupong chairperson ng Senior High School National Task Force, presidente ng Association of DepEd Directors, at co-chair ng Technical Committee on Philippine Schools Overseas. Welcome po, Director Andaya. Go ahead po.
Good afternoon. Thank you for inviting the Department
Department of Education to this webinar on ending sexual harassment in educational and training institutions. I commend the Philippine Commission on Women, or the PCW, in collaboration with the Interagency Council on Violence Against Women and Children, or IAC-VAWC, for holding. The department fully provides the needed mechanism to prevent and attend to cases of gender-based sexual harassment in educational institutions, regardless of the learning modalities considered by the schools. Foremost, the concept of safety and security is considered in the DepEd mission statement, which is to protect and promote the right of every Filipino to quality, equitable, culture-based, and complete basic education where students learn in a child-friendly, gender-sensitive, safe, and motivating environment. Teachers facilitate learning and constantly nurture every learner. Administrators and staff, as stewards of the institution, ensure an enabling and supportive environment for effective learning to happen. Family, community, and other stakeholders are actively engaged and share responsibility for developing lifelong learners. Therefore, stakeholders in the basic education sector are enticed to support initiatives taken by the DepEd to achieve its mission. In line with the commitment to ensure safety and security of the learners, the following policies and issuances were released. 1. The DepEd Order Number 32 Series of 2017, which shows DepEd's commitment to incorporate principles of gender equality, gender equity, gender sensitivity, non-discrimination, and human rights in its delivery of basic education services. 2. DepEd Order Number 40 Series of 2012, which is called the Child Protection Policy, which shares the policy and guidelines on protecting children in school from abuse, violence, exploitation, discrimination, bullying, and other forms of abuse. 3. DepEd Order Number 55 Series of 2013, which is the implementing rules and regulations of Republic Act Number 10627, otherwise known as the Anti-Bullying Act of 2013. 4. DepEd Order Number 31 Series of 2018, or the policy guidelines on the implementation of comprehensive sexuality education, which aims to establish a common understanding of CSE key concepts and messages and to ensure clear implementation of protocols in the CSE. 5. Implementation of homeroom guidance during crisis situation, which envisions learners who can work for the common good of society and love for our country while upholding the rights and responsibilities of global citizens. 6. The guidelines on counseling and referral system of learners for school year 2020-2021, which aims to give DepEd schools the mechanism to address the needs of learners on mental health services, including counseling activities with mental health professionals. And 7, Advisory Number 009 Series of 2021, which was released on February 16, 2021, in compliance with DO Number 8 Series of 2013. Which is about gender and development training compliance on the law and implementing rules and regulations of the Safe Spaces Act of the Center for Global Best Practices. The DepEd, through the Bureau of Curriculum Development, is currently advocating for the strengthened implementation of the comprehensive sexuality education individual against possible threat of violence, including sexual harassment. We are also strengthening our comprehensive sexuality education. DepEd is committed to provide and protect the rights of Filipino learners to good education and improve health, and to help Filipino learners complete basic education without the burden of health concerns. It also recognizes the roles and responsibilities of health by leading the implementation of CSE. In order to address the needs of the learners for health and protection through education, CSE is designed to ensure that the learners are receiving comprehensive and appropriate information that can advance gender equality and empowerment. Specifically, CSE aims to enhance the overall wellness of the Filipino adolescents, physical, mental, emotional, social, and spiritual. Contribute to better learning outcomes, reduced dropout rate, increased completion rate, and improved quality of learning. Ensure that adolescents have access to adequate and appropriate information and healthcare education. Address the reproductive health concerns of adolescents who are exposed to risky behaviors that may cause damaging and long-term consequences, and promote healthy and responsible sexual and social behavior among adolescents. The CSE also provides enlightening concepts on what needs to be done and the people to turn to when confronted by danger. The various levels of governance in the DepEd are also capacitated on the core competencies and key messages of CSE. Our regional, division, and school-based training were also conducted by cascading the significant key concepts and messages of CSE. For example, all people have the right to be protected and supported. Friends, family, teachers, clergy, and community member can and should help each other. Trusted adults can be sources of help and support. There are health risks associated with early marriage, pregnancy, and birth. Everyone has the right to privacy and bodily integrity. Proper care of the body, including of the sexual parts, is necessary to keep it clean and free from infection. Puberty is a time of physical and emotional change that happens as children grow and mature. There are different sources of help and support in your school and wider community against discrimination, sexual harassment, and abuse. And gender inequality is often seen in the roles and responsibilities of family members. With these key concepts and with the implementation of RA 1131-3 or the Safe Spaces Act, DepEd starts to hold meetings and webinars about it. Possible inclusion of the core messages in information, education, and communication materials are to be shared by the department, and which is part of the plan that we are making and releasing by next year. DepEd is also in full support of the Bawal Bastos law that penalizes catcalling, wolf whistling, misogynistic and homophobic slurs, unwanted sexual advances, and other forms of sexual harassment in public places, workplaces, schools, as well as online spaces. To ensure that sexual harassment cases won't grow in number, education stakeholders in basic education institutions also meet to discuss and monitor various activities that lead to the welfare of the learners. Other measures to address sexual harassment in educational institutions include training or equipping the learners with the necessary digital, including the knowledge and skills they need to stay safe online. Because children spending more time online means being exposed to grave risks on the internet, including gender-based violence, child sexual exploitation, and abuse. Another measure is a strengthened advocacy for comprehensive, age-appropriate sexuality education and sexual and reproductive health and rights information should continue through distance learning. Additionally, teaching strategies and activities should be fair, sensitive, and empowering, especially to the marginalized female and male learners, including other learners in the gender spectrum, and revitalize guidance program that provides services to students who are regarded as victims of any form of violence. The holistic development of all members in the basic education system must be ensured, and DepEd joins the various organizations in fully advocating the anti-sexual harassment campaign. At this juncture, I wish to end my sharing with this quote that reminds everyone about the value of respect for human rights and human dignity. Self-respect, by definition, is a confidence and pride in knowing that your behavior is both honorable and dignified. When you harass or vilify someone, you not only disrespect them, but yourself also. Street harassment, sexual violence, sexual harassment, gender-based violence, and racism are all acts committed by a person who in fact has no self-respect. And so, ladies and gentlemen, respect yourself by respecting others. Thank you for the opportunity to be part of this cause-driven webinar. Mabuhay tayong lahat.
Thank you very much, DepEd Director Andaya, for enlightening us on the matter. Nag-transition tayo from workplace and now to schools. This is very timely dahil ang kultura ng sexual harassment ay natututunan at na-experience sa murang edad, online man o face-to-face ang mga klase. And if experienced at a very early age, this may affect the children who may experience harassment. So sa tulong po ng mga paaralan at ng mga magulang, sana po ay sama-sama nating protektahan ang mga kabataan laban sa anumang anyo ng harassment at pang-aabuso. They deserve the right to grow and learn in a safe and healthy environment. Again, thank you po, Director Andaya from DepEd. And to our audience, huwag po natin kalimutan na may ongoing game po tayo. This is #FindJermaine. Again, sa mga hindi pa po nakikita or napapanood, yung una nating instructions kanina dito sa #FindJermaine, ito po ang ating instructions. So si Jermaine po ang character na ginagamit ng Philippine Commission on Women na sumisimbolo sa gender mainstreaming. Sa mga first time marinig ito, ang gender mainstreaming ay isang strategy upang masiguro na ang mga pangangailangan ng lahat ng kasarian ay nasasaalang-alang sa bawat programa ng gobyerno. Kumbaga, no gender is left behind. Ayan po, narito po ang mechanics na dapat sundin dito sa Find Jermaine game natin for this event. Una, tumutok sa buong session at abangan ang paglabas ni Jermaine sa screen. So bawat pagpapakita ni Jermaine ay may letrang katumbas hanggang sa mabuo ang word for the day. Pangalawa, dapat ay picturean o screenshot sa inyong mga cellphones ang bawat lumalabas, ang bawat paglabas ni Jermaine at mabuo ang word for the day. Tandaan na maaaring magpakita si Jermaine sa kahit anong bahagi ng programa, mapapresentation man o video. Pangatlo, i-upload ang inyong screenshot o larawan ni Jermaine sa inyong personal Facebook account at tandaan na dapat kompleto po ang photos ni Jermaine para mabuo itong word for the day natin today. So halimbawa po ay nakita niyo na yung word for the day, dapat po i-post niyo ito sa inyong Facebook account with an attached hashtag. So hindi po siya counted kapag wala pong kasamang hashtag. So yung initial hashtag po natin is #FindJermaine. Tapos kapag nakita niyo na po yung pinaka word for the day natin, i-attach niyo po ito doon. So halimbawa, Find Jermaine Empower. Yun po ang halimbawa ang word for the day. Ang ilalagay natin sa post is #FindJermaine Empower. Ayan po. At pang-apat, amin pong may isasama ang names ng lahat na makikita sa entries mula sa hashtag ng aming Wheel of Names. At sa dulo ng programa, isispin po namin iyan para malaman ang ating winners for the day. Ayan. Sa ilalim ng Safe Spaces Act, syempre dapat protektado ang lahat. So anuman ang antas ng edukasyon. Ngayon, alamin naman natin ang mga ginagawang aksyon ng Commission on Higher Education upang matugunan ang gender-based sexual harassment sa higher education institutions. To talk about this, let's welcome Ms. Maria Kristina Gaerlan, GAD Specialist from the Commission on Higher Education. 30 years na pong nasa gender work si Ms. Atty. In these 3 decades, she was performing administrative, program development, and institution building at the Institute of Women's Studies sa St. Scholastica's College. She also performed consultancy work for a variety of international and local development organizations. Sa pampublikong sektor naman po, nagsisilbi rin siyang technical GAD writer consultant ng GED at bumalik dito kamakailan bilang GAD Specialist. She also served as a consultant for TESDA Director General, and before that, a faculty member of the UP Department of English and Comparative Literature. Hello po, Ms. Atty. Magandang hapon po. Welcome to the session.
Good afternoon. Thank you, PCW, for inviting us. And of course, kudos because talaga you're able to mount a very vibrant observance of vow year in and year out. Talagang orange your world. So congratulations, PCW. May I proceed now to my task? The task before me is to share with you some of the mechanisms that we have tried in CHED, and well, some have worked and some have not, or some are a work in progress. So let me tell you a little bit about the early initiatives before the SSA or the enactment of the Safe Spaces Act. As early as 2003, for example, there was a CHED memorandum order. There. Thank you. There was a CHED memorandum order, 2003, directing HEIs to supply the commission with the following: the composition of your CODI. This was regarding the CODI, no, the Committee on the Crime and Investigation, and then the duty. They were reminded in the memo of their duty to endorse complaints about sexual harassment received to the CODI and prompt investigation. They were also reminded of their duty to report both alleged and formally charged sexual harassment instances. And then I enclose in quotation marks the fourth item in that memo, which was they were enjoined to undertake background investigation of applicants. Later on, we'll go to that word enjoined kasi parang encouraged yan eh. But maybe 2003 and now it's 2021. Maybe over the years, we have learned that hindi lang dapat enjoined, baka dapat something stronger. So my next slide is really just a screen capture of the memo that I was talking about. Next, in 2010, next slide please. In 2010, if you remember, we have the post, I call this slide the post-MCW pre-SSA. Post Magna Carta Women pre-Safe Spaces Act. There was a GAD Accord signed a GAD Accord of Philippine HEIs with a Declaration of Commitment and Partnership. This was in October 2011. It was a fairly long document, that GAD Accord. It contained programs and policies to prevent vow, including institutional mechanisms, and then it directed the HEIs to coordinate with the proper agencies for assistance to victims of sexual harassment. Now that GAD Accord is significant because that was actually signed by 85 presidents of state universities and colleges, and in the presence of 300 heads of private school institutions, private schools. Next slide, please. And then in February 2011, and then there was a follow-up memo in June 2011. There was a memo issued by the CHED chair, again, on the CODI. The creation of the CODI, the members, HEIs were asked to submit data on the number of complaints received, complaints resolved, and actions taken, and then number of complaints referred to an external judicial or administrative body, and they were asked for suggestions. Okay, however, if you go to the next slide, you will see there, I'm sorry, as of 2011, there was less than 9% who had complied with that memo on the status of the CODI. In fact, meron pa nga pong mga SUCs, I'm sorry, may mga HEIs, public and private, who said there's no need for the CODI kasi wala naman silang natatanggap na sexual harassment complaint. Up to now, kulang pa rin po admittedly yung datos namin about the CODIs, but one other mechanism that seems to work is, next slide please, as of 2019, in close coordination with the CODIs are 128 women's desks established nationwide. Ang data po namin is coming from just 12 of the 16 regions. Kulang pa po, no? Hindi pa nakakapag-submit yung ibang regional offices. Now, these women's desks, they work closely with the CODIs, as I mentioned. They work with the student affairs offices, the guidance counseling offices, nawala ata ang ating PowerPoint, the LGUs in responding to sexual harassment complaints. Some HEIs even have a, can we go to slide 7? There you go. Some HEIs even have a women's desk in their satellite campuses, no? Tapos, okay. Between 2015 and 2019, we received there were 64 reported cases of sexual harassment. Now, admittedly, that is a very small number, no? So, kulang pa rin po talaga siguro sa reporting rigor at saka sa monitoring. And then in 2015, next slide please, nagkaroon na po ng Shared Memorandum Order number 1 series of 2015 on mainstreaming gender in higher education. Ang tawag po namin dito, the trilogical functions of higher education. So the CMO was broad in scope and covered curriculum, research, and extension. Tapos po, ambitious and broad yung scope ng CMO from the enabling mechanisms, which is my topic today, to sex disaggregated, I'm sorry, nagulo yata yung sex disaggregated collection and database, data collection and database, tapos yung pong student assistance and services, okay? But the longest and most detailed section of that CMO is section 14 on sexual harassment. It details the entire process from the receipt of the complaint to the adjudication. Tapos it establishes the accountability of HEIs, particularly the head of HEIs in case of non-action or failure to resolve the complaints. And most significantly, it expanded the definition of sexual harassment to include sexual harassment between peers, that is between student and student, or between faculty and faculty, between employee and employee, as well as sexual harassment in subordinate relationships. For example, students harassing their faculty. I will recall to you as a story shared by one faculty from an HEI who said na may kwento siya na nung namimigay na outside the classroom, nung namimigay na siya ng test results ng exams, at para siyang kinuyog, no? The students were around this person. At parang ang gulo-gulo nila, tapos na-distribute na niya yung mga test results niya, pero at the end of it, the person actually felt a little bit violated by the rowdiness of the students. Okay? Next slide, please. Let me now tell you about the mechanisms that are existing, hopefully, para ma-control, ma-eliminate at ma-address resolutely ang sexual harassment on campus or in higher education. We have the GAD focal point system, of course, as mandated by the Magna Carta of Women. We have an expanded GAD Secretariat, and we have a GAD Oversight Commissioner. Let me tell you a little bit about this, no? Yung GFPS membership po namin, yung GAD focal point system namin, in CHED, that is from director level upwards. In the HEIs, ang sabi nung CMO, it's from dean level upwards. Okay, for example, the dean is not necessarily an advocate, mas masigasig yung faculty. But then again, we had to tackle the question of advocacy and authority because sometimes you can be the most active advocate, pero dahil kulang ang authority, minsan parang everything you say falls on deaf ears. Okay? So parang kinailangan po namin i-address yung advocacy and authority. And then, meron tayong expanded GAD Secretariat na tapos distinct po yung roles ng GFPS at ng Secretariat. Yung isa is direction setting, strategy, and the Secretariat helps in the implementation and the monitoring. But we have always said na ang pinaka-importante is the value of a champion. So we actually have a commissioner that oversees the GAD affairs or the gender work of the commission. Okay, and then next slide, let me just tell you a little swiftly lang some activities that we've had: the annual Higher Education Summit on Gender Issues, capability building seminar. We had a seminar on the proper handling of SH cases for guidance counselors, and my God, we had to open I'm telling you, we had to open the doors of the auditorium because lagpas dun sa attendance that we anticipated. And then in 2018, we also had a seminar region-wide on the management of SH. And then we have sa CHED, yung GAD Focal Point System and GAD Committee has its annual conference for the GAD Planning and Budgeting and Accomplishment Report. And this is attended by everybody, including the GAD focals from the regional offices. Next slide, please. Now, with the adaptation of the Safe Spaces Act, ayan na, meron na po kaming draft na guidelines for HEIs on gender-based sexual harassment. And then we've had orientation on the Safe Spaces Act. There was actually a memo issued by the CHED chair, De Vera, that all staff, no exemption, are expected to attend. So because you are all expected to attend, pero hindi naman pwedeng yung buong opisina nakikinig na ganyan dun sa orientation. We held for each regional office and for the central office, we held it in 2 batches. Okay, so all of these we finished just yesterday. The last batch was finished yesterday. So the next 2 slides would be the photos lang po of the orientation. Paano po yan nakakascade? Let me just give you an example. Paano po nakakascade yung ganyan namin mga activities or orientation sa mga HEIs? In Region 1, for example, there was a forum on safe spaces attended by 1,424 students, teaching and non-teaching personnel. In Region 5, nagkaroon po ng talk den, attended by presidents, VPs, and GAD focals of there were 200 attendees of the HEIs. In Region 6, nagkaroon po ng webinar attended by 100 Zoom participants kasi yun lang daw po yung kaya. Pero monitored by 1,200 Facebook attendees. In Region 6A, nagkaroon po ng annual GAD conference on the Safe Spaces Act, attended by 446 participants, mostly GAD directors, guidance counselors, and student leaders. And in Mimaropa, there was a gender in the workplace seminar. I have my last 2 slides. Localized Next please, yung localized guidelines, as I was saying, may draft guidelines na po kami. We're just ensuring that all the I's are dotted and all the T's are crossed. This was completed by a technical working group composed of, salamat po sa tulong ng PCW, the different CHED units, and we were supported by Plan International, also an international development organization that is devoted to child protection and safety. Ang expected presentation po namin na approval niyan is the first quarter of 2022 and the possible rollout is by the second quarter. Then there is also another plan. There is also a plan, next slide please, for a handbook. Meron na po yung draft. Yung handbook po, bilang tulong sa HEIs, meron kaming sample section on SH na pwedeng ilagay sa student handbook. Because as mandated by the Safe Spaces Act, kailangan baguhin ang student handbook, ang faculty manual, ang employees manual to reflect all these guidelines updates. Okay, so yun po. Meron pong sari-saring suggestions doon sa handbook on hotspot mapping, campus climate surveys, etc. Okay, and finally, my last slide is just my summary. Our summary of findings, lessons at the CHED. The CODI is not an ad hoc mechanism. We keep reminding HEIs that. In fact, the CODI, one of the duties of the CODI is to promote the provisions of the Safe Spaces Act. Sexual harassment is not just a labor issue. Sometimes the damage can be permanent to lives, health, your job and relationship prospects. It also costs in terms of legal fees, police fees, regulation fees, as our Dole speaker pointed out. But the solutions are systemic, okay? Yung usual po nating solution of ignore or fire the harasser and offer training, they're not gonna cut it. Kulang po yun. We need to change our culture. We need to change our mindset. Yun lang po at maraming salamat.
Okay, maraming salamat po, Ms. Atty, ang GAD Specialist po mula sa CHED. Very exciting po itong mga plano for higher education institutions and making sure safe spaces for all students and even the workers. And thank you po for enlightening us na meron pa rin kakulangan sa number of reported sexual harassment cases, perhaps due to fear of retaliation on the side of the victims. Marami po ang tikom, ang bibig. But because of the safeguards na inilatag ng Safe Spaces Act and other more activities, I hope mabuo yung tiwala ng bawat individual from the private and public sector. And hopefully, itong mababang data na ito sa cases of sexual harassment sa mga kolehiyo will reflect the actual numbers na hopefully ay magtuloy-tuloy na nga po yung pagbaba. And now, we are towards the last end of our program. At salamat po sa engagement ng ating mga netizens na nag-review ng event na ito via Facebook. We are already having hundreds of comments. May mga galing po sa Negros Occidental, Isabela, Laguna, Tawi-Tawi, Pangasinan, at marami pang iba. Thank you for engaging with us and watching this event right at your home. Tumatanggap po kami ng questions, so please comment on our Facebook Live. So bago po tayo magtungo sa ating last speaker, we would like to share updates on our ground campaign for the Safe Spaces Act. Since the onset of the 18-day campaign, we have been distributing information materials on this law to different provinces and cities all around the country. Let's watch this. there you have it. Simula pa lang ito ng ground campaign ng PCW para sa Safe Spaces Act at makakaasa po kayo na mas paiigtingin pa ang pagpapalaganap ng impormasyon ukol sa mahalagang batas na ito. Ngayon, tuloy na po natin ang talakayan. Bukod sa elementarya, high school o kolehiyo, sakop din ng batas ang mga training institutions, kagaya na lang ng mga nag-o-offer ng technical o vocational courses o iba pang pagsasanay. To discuss this, we have Ms. Katherine Amor A. Zarsadias, Chief Technical Education and Skills Development Specialist ng Policy Research and Evaluation Division. Siya rin po ang Concurrent Officer in Charge ng Labor Market Division, TESDA Planning Office. Sa ngayon, siya rin po ang umuupong chairperson ng kanilang Gender and Development Focal Point System Technical Working Group. Let's give our heart reactions for Ms. Katherine. Hello po, Ms. Katherine. Go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So a pleasant afternoon to everyone. Okay, so on behalf of our Secretary, Sec Isidro La Peña, and our TESDA Execom GAD Focal Point System Chairperson, EDG Rosano Ordeneta, I am pleased to present to everyone TESDA's Gender Mainstreaming Initiative Ending Sexual Harassment in the Training Institution. Okay, next slide, please. So TESDA is one of the education agencies, and it is mandated to provide relevant, efficient, accessible, high-quality technical education and skills development to develop middle-level workforce responsive to Philippine development goals and priorities. So TESDA has the National Technical Education and Skills Development Plan 2018-2022. Next slide, please. Which envision a vibrant, quality TVET for decent work and sustainable, inclusive growth. This has two-pronged agenda. These are the TVET for global competitiveness and workforce readiness, and the TVET for social equity and poverty reduction. And part of the areas or considered in the development of the NTSDP is the gender and development, with an intention to make sure a gender responsive policies and programs for TVET. Next slide, please. So of course, based on Rule for Rights and Empowerment, Section 16 of the Magna Carta of Women on the equal access and elimination of discrimination in education, scholarship, and training. So TESDA is in the implementation of gender development and mainstreaming mainstreaming GAD in all our programs to make sure that we'll avoid the occurrence of any harassment or any problems in the training institutions. Okay. So just to inform everyone that TVET program, similar to other agency, mainstream gender and development. This is to increase awareness and equip the learners with corresponding knowledge on gender and development to avoid the occurrence of problems in the training institutions like the sexual harassment. So let me just share to you the different initiatives that we have or programs in place in TESDA to support the gender and development, and as well as to avoid or to make sure that there will be a safe space for everyone in the training institutions. First is we have our TESDA GAD focal point system. This was formed to spearhead the development of GAD-related policies and implementation of GAD programs. So this GAD focal point system identifies the different issues and concerns related to gender and development in women. And also this GAD focal point system, we have this in the central office, regional offices, provincial offices, and even in our TESDA technology institution. So to make sure that there is someone spearheading and looking into the different concerns. Okay, so just to share, part of our initiatives is the development of or ensuring the gender-sensitive curriculum in the delivery of our program. So we have issuances that support this. First is the TESDA Circular number 2, series of 2012, which That's a circular, sorry, number 20, 26 series of 2012, which aims to institutionalize the use of gender-sensitive curriculum and gender-sensitive trainers manual to produce gender-sensitive TSD graduates and promote gender-fair education in the TSD sector. Next slide, please. So just to provide you information on specific competencies or learning outcome that we have in the implementation of our curriculum to make it gender sensitive and equip our learners with corresponding information about gender in development, and as I have mentioned, avoid any occurrence of any um, uh, unnecessary activities or unnecessary circumstances like sexual harassment in the training institution. So we have here some of the learning outcomes, such as discuss the differences of sex and gender, discuss gender identity and sexual orientation, analyze the different manifestation of gender inequality in Tibet, in society, and in entrepreneurship. Also, we have here discussed gender rights based approach and sexual reproductive health, including HIV/AIDS awareness and prevention. Also, specific learning outcome includes the develop effective workplace relationship, including personal values and beliefs related to gender. We also have participate in workplace meeting and discussion applying gender fair language. Next slide, please. Okay. Also, we have apply work and entrepreneurial values and gender sensitivity and integrate gender perspective with personal and organizational goal. Lastly, we have maintain occupational health and safety awareness, including women's concerns relative to OHS. So, in support to this is also another issuance which provides guidance on the delivery of competency-based training, specifically including gender and development topics, HIV, AIDS during the orientation of the trainees. Okay, next slide, please. So, of course, part of the initiative that we have is the establishment of Committee on Decorum and Investigation, or CODI, of sexual harassment cases. Okay. So, this issuances that we have related to this, next slide please, are anchored to the Civil Service Commission issuances as well, like the 2017 rules on administrative cases in the civil service regarding sexual harassment. Also, the Civil Service Commission Resolution number 210064 on the revised administrative disciplinary rules on sexual harassment cases. And of course, anchored to the Safe Space Act, or the RA 11313, the Bawal Bastos Law. So we have this issuance, that is a circular number 91 series of 2021. This is the rules and procedures in handling complaints filed before the Committee on Decorum and Investigation, or CODI. So the objective of this issuance is to ensure efficiency in handling of complaints filed before the CODI and to guide the members in the conduct of the investigation. So these guidelines cover all acts of sexual harassment committed by any TESDA employee within the Koropotis. So we mean Koropoti means the central office, regional offices, provincial offices, and the TESDA technology institutions, including the students in streets and public spaces or online. Next slide, please. We also have this TESDA order number 714 series of 2021, which is the amendment on the composition of the National Committee on Decorum and Investigation and creation of a localized CODI in the regional offices. So this is aligned also to the requirement as mentioned by the civil service representative earlier about the representation of the, or the requirement in the representation in the composition of the Committee on Decorum and Investigation. So the objective of this order is the committee shall adhere to the rules and procedures in handling complaints filed before the Committee on the Decorum and Investigation as provided to the issuance or the guidelines I have stated earlier, which is there's a circular number 91 series of 2021, which is specific on the procedures or guidelines in handling complaints related to sexual harassment and other activities that the CODI or the Committee on Decorum and Investigation should undertake. And this order also covers the central office, regional, provincial, and the TESDA technology institution. In support also to ensure the safe space in the training institutions, we have this issuance way back in 2017. This is a memorandum number 46, series of 2017, establishment of CODI, not only in internal to TESDA, but even our TVIs were encouraged to have or establish their CODI in their respective institutions. So the TVIs, basically those are private institutions with registered program to TESDA. So we have provided them as well the guidelines on the creation of their respective CODIs to make sure that all problem that will occur will be addressed accordingly. Okay. So also part of what we are doing is the dissemination of information materials to inform TESDA employees as well as our training institutions about like the Safe Space Act and other issuances and other initiative that PCW also provided us. Okay, just to also share to everyone what we have conducted or undertaken relative to NVAUC. So these are the activities. So of course, during our secretary already had his video of support about or message of support regarding the 18-day campaign to NVAUC. Also for the from November 25 to December until December 18, during the flag raising ceremony, part of the prayer that we are doing is the prayer of the end vows to end violence against women and their children. Also, we have this the orange your icon. The TESDA participate in the Orange Your Icon activity to raise the awareness and support of TESDA's stakeholders to the anti-VAUC advocacies. And lastly, part of what we are doing is GAD-related lifelong learning webinar series. We have started this one since July until I think the last one is this November 26. So we have different topics like the gender sensitivity in a diverse environment. Also, we have, next slide please, your sexual and reproductive health and rights. Another program or webinar conducted is the Act Against HIV/AIDS. And also we have the safe space for everyone. So these are the initiatives that we are doing to, of course, increase awareness and equip everyone in the DepEd information, knowledge about this VAUC, about the law of about the safe space and other initiative that should be learned so that we'll avoid or we'll be able to know what to do in case there are an unnecessary occurrence of sexual harassment in the training institution. So with that, thank you very much po.
And thank you very much, Ms. Katherine of TESDA, for that interesting and substantial discussion on the gender-responsive policies of TESDA. Please stay with us po for the open forum. And with that, we're now opening the floor for questions. And for our forum, we have all our RPs for the Educational and Training Institutions, Dr. Rosalie Masina and Sir Ricky Dionisio from DepEd, Ms. E.T. of CHED, and still with us, Ms. Katherine of TESDA. And ayan po, medyo madami-dami po yung questions natin for this afternoon. And let's start with the question 1. Ang sinabi po ng nag-send ng question is, I have a female classmate who gets invited by her unmarried teacher to a tutorial session in his house. She did not accept his invitation, pero mapilit si teacher at parati pa rin siyang niyayaya. Nasabi na rin sa friend ko na kung maaari ay huwag siyang magsama ng classmate or kaibigan. Sa ngayon, ayaw magsumbong ng classmate ko kasi baka daw siya baligtarin kasi wala naman daw nangyaring masama sa kanya. Pwede bang i-report ang pag-iimbita ni teacher at kung sakali, dapat bang may proof? To any of our speakers who can answer?
Yes. Yes, dapat niyang i-report. Hindi lang pwedeng i-report, kundi dapat i-report. You know, we at CHED have been saying this. In fact, if you know, some HEIs have already opted for an open layout sa kanilang mga faculty rooms to yung para transparent, para mas visible. Medyo nakakataas ng kilay yung sa bahay pa mismo ng teacher nag-iimbita. Dapat yon sabihin ng estudyante, sir, siguro, or ma'am, whatever is the case, doon na lang po siguro sa faculty lounge o faculty room. Ngayon, kung yung cubicles ng faculty ay paisa-isa, then, insist on or suggest a faculty lounge, a more public space. But before that, perhaps, tanungin, bakit po? Ba't po kayo nagyayaya?
Okay.
But yes, please report that.
Okay po. Thank you very much for your answer, Ms. Iti. And for question number 2, dahil madami po tayong question, this question came from a teacher naman. I am a teacher who is relatively young, kaya minsan hindi maiwasan maging close sa mga estudyante ko, lalo na yung mga nasa senior college level. Minsan, I feel like I'm being sexually harassed habang nakikipagbiroan ako sa kanila. Pwede ba akong mag-report sa aming school admin? Baka po kasi sabihin, nakasalanan ko kasi ako yung teacher. To our speakers who can answer.
No. May I again? Yes, you may report that to your CODI or to your admin. See, that's the whole problem with sexual harassment, whether in the workplace, in public spaces, or in HEIs. The victim is re-victimized, di ba? Sabi nila, bakit kasi ganyan ang suot mo? Or issues like that. So, but the admin should know better, especially because andyan na po ang Safe Spaces Act natin, no? Hopefully, that will be of clearer guidance to them. Paano nire-resolve, hinaharap yung ganitong mga sitwasyon na hindi ikaw ang babalikan. But yes, please bring it up with your admin or your CODI. And there are many possible solutions kung kinakailangan magpapalit ng section or whatever, just like it is incumbent upon management. Kapag, for example, may fear of retaliation, hindi po ba ang isang nag-report ng SH ay pwede siyang ilipat ng work unit or whatever. So there are other options, there are options available na hindi dapat binibiktima o sinisisi yung nagre-report.
Okay, well said, ma'am. And for our third question, sinabi na po, does anyone want to add po?
Opo, just to add on to Ma'am Kristina, so I agree with her, dapat po talagang i-report. So, kasi ma'am, of course, wala naman pong pinipili. Whether you're a student, you're a trainee, or you're a teacher, so as long as Yun po, nararamdaman mo yun. So, dapat po ay mai-report po ito doon sa CODI para po ma-address po siya, whatever, if it's prevention or kung ano man pong corresponding solution. So, it should be reported.
Okay po. Thank you very much, Ms. Kath. And for our third question, ang sinabi naman po niya, naka-enroll ako sa isang beauty-related course. Marami akong narinig na degrading comments from our instructor against sa mga co-trainees namin na lesbian and gays. Hindi naman directed sa akin yung sinasabi ng aming instructor, pero may mga homophobic remarks po siya. Natingin ko ay hindi makatao. Pwede po ba yun i-report? Ano pong consequence ito sa enrollment ko? Natatakot po ako mag-file ng complaint against my instructor kasi baka sabihin ang sensitive ko naman. Ms. Kat?
Pwede po kami pakitawag na lang. Yan, ma'am. Tama, ma'am, yan. Yung sinasabi po na yung homophobic remarks. So, it can be also reported po kung sino yung nakakaalam o may nakakasaksi ng mga ganun pong sitwasyon para din po ma-avoid siya. Kung meron naman pong tamang grupo or yung committee, kaya nga po we have our CODI para po ma-make sure natin na yung agam-agam din ng mga gustong magsabi merong tamang platform po kung saan sila pwedeng dumulog po.
Okay, thank you po. And for question 4, baka pwede naman nating marinig ang answer
Pwede
Okay, ma'am. Sure.
Pwede magdagdag. So in addition lang to what Ms. Kath has already pointed out, that's why the Safe Spaces Act mandated the revision of a student handbook, sinasabi ko kanina, faculty manual, employees manual. Kailangan malinaw na rin po, may provision na rin po doon on sanctions against retaliatory action. Kasi totoo yun isa yan sa mga deterrents, no? Sa pag-report ng SH. Natatakot yung empleyado, natatakot yung estudyante. So dapat alam natin lahat ng kinaharap natin and the consequences, no, of our action. So dapat in the student handbook, in the faculty manual, in the employees manual, malinaw na meron ding sanction pagka nahuli ka na executing retaliatory action against somebody who reported SH.
Okay po. Thank you po, Ms. Atty. And for our question number 4, baka pwede pong sumagot dito ang ating friends from DepEd. Where does a victim of catcalling, which is a form of sexual harassment, file a complaint? Is it before the police station of jurisdiction?
Mag-ano ka na? Ano yan?
Hello po, our DepEd friends.
For yung unang tanong. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Yeah, this is Sally from DepEd. Just a rejoinder to the first question, yung tungkol sa bata na pinapapunta tungkol sa kanyang tutorial session. Sa basic education curriculum sa DepEd, kahit walang proof, as per DepEd Order number 40 series of 2012, pwedeng magreklamong bata or magsumbong dahil meron tayong Child Protection Policy Committee sa lahat ng eskwelahan natin nationwide. At bago dyan, ang comprehensive sexuality education tulad ng na-discuss kanina or naibahagi ng aming Bureau Director ni Director Jocelyn D.R. Andaya, tinuturuan namin sila ng life skills. Kasama dito po yung kung paano sila makaka-cope with pressure, and then yung pong effective communication on how to say no as early as kindergarten. Tinuturuan na namin sila ng how to say no and how to seek help from the trusted adult, lalong-lalo na yung kanilang parents, ang kanilang guardians, and especially nasa school, syempre, ang kanilang mga advisor or mga teachers. So, mahalaga na maituro sa ating mga mag-aaral yon na pwede silang humingi ng tulong. At tulad din ng sinabi namin, isa sa ang aming ina-express lagi, ang DepEd mission ay matuto ang aming mga mag-aaral in a child-friendly, gender-sensitive, and safe and motivating environment. So, kasama din din po yan sa DepEd Order number 14 na kung saan kahit na wala siyang pruweba pero ang best interest lagi ng ating mga mag-aaral ang pangunahing kailangang i-address ng eskwelahan. Lalo-lalo na kung kasi naka-define doon yung child exploitation na kung saan nagte-take advantage ang ating mga teachers sa ating mga mag-aaral. And una doon sa sitwasyon, dapat malaman ng ating mga mag-aaral na alam nilang mag-decipher. Kaya nga, dinidevelop sa kanila yung critical thinking, kasama yun sa life skills na dinidevelop namin yung critical thinking. Ma-analyze nila yung mga sitwasyon na kung saan malalagay sila sa alanganin. So, doon pa lang, ina-avoid na natin, meron na tayong binibigay sa kanilang mga kaukulang informasyon, kaalaman na dapat ma-develop para kung sa ganon ay alam nila kung paano sila gagawa ng action, paano sila magde-decide para maproteksyonan po nila ang kanilang mga sarili. And then, sa aming child protection policy, nakadefine po yung other acts of violence kung saan nga, kung may psychological impact ito sa ating bata, so dapat na mabigyang action kasi the more na dapat alam to ng ating mga guro. Yun lamang po at maraming salamat po.
Thank you po, Dr. Rosalie Masilang of DepEd. And maybe we can go on to question number 4. Si Sir Ricky Dionisio, baka he can answer po. Where does a victim of catcalling, which is a form of sexual harassment, file a complaint? Is it before the police station of jurisdiction po?
Child protection policy sa school.
Nakastipulate din po sa child protection policy namin that with reference to cases like that, pwede silang tumulog. There is actually a flow of process that needs to be undertaken. At the moment, DepEd is also strengthening ang ating referral system. No? Ibig sabihin, ang ating empowered guidance counseling program is open to all schools because the trained guidance counselors will immediately address the needs, no? Depende on the complaint being raised by the student. And this is in promotion, no? Hindi lang in terms of advocacy. It's because each DepEd school is categorized or labeled as a safe place or a safe environment. So we are in this together po sa DepEd in fully advocating this kind of advocacy. Thank you po.
Okay po, thank you po so much, sir. And we're down to our last 2 questions. So for the question number 5, ang sabi niya po, saan po pwede humingi ng tulong kung walang CODI sa school? Saan din po pwedeng i-report yung school na walang CODI? To anyone who can answer po? I guess Miss Etty?
Tulad po sa DepEd po, tulad po ng sinabi po namin kanina, yung meron po kaming child protection committee sa bawat eskwelahan na kung saan ay ito po ay binubuo ng mga school heads. Ang una po ay as chair and then meron din po tayong co-chair yung ating guidance at saka po yung teacher association, parent teacher association. Sila po ay kasama din tsaka student association, student government body at doon po sila pwedeng dumulog po sa ating sa eskwelahan po.
Okay po, thank you very much. To anyone who wishes to add before we proceed to the next question po, baka may gusto pa po. Miss Etty, nakamute po kayo.
Sorry about that. Yes, I would just like to add na yun nga yung I cited this problem earlier, I think. That is, in fact, when you talk to some students, pag tinanong mo sila, do you know of the CODI? They don't. So, maaring there is a CODI, except that the students don't know about it, which is why we have also been reminding HEIs sa orientation nyo doon sa mga pumapasok na first year, banggitin nyo na yung CODI. Kahit na, halimbawa, nagpahiram lang kayo ng kwarto doon sa committee, wala naman talaga silang space. For lack of space, sana merong nakalagay doon sa pintuan na CODI. Tapos at least mapapatanong ang estudyante, what is that? What is that? Ganoon. Ano? So, yeah, maaring hindi alam ng estudyante that there is CODI. O maaring wala talagang CODI. In which case, please email us at CHED.
Okay po, thank you very much. And for our question number 6, this question is also for CHED. There had been no mention of any intervention to prevent GBSH against the members of the LGBTQI community. VOW desks seem to be more seem to prefer more than Valdez seem to be more preferred than the Cody. What does GAD plan to do about this?
No, let me clarify that the guidelines on sexual harassment are eventually to be issued once finalized and approved by the Commission and Bank, eventually to be issued. The HEIs apply, the guidelines apply to binary and non-binary, meaning to say, including members of our LGBTQ plus community. Even the guidelines for that matter, the Safe Spaces Act for that matter, the IRR, and the local adaptation of these, they don't have been inclusive. Meaning to say, kasama ang lahat, no? Kababaihan, which admittedly is majority sila ng mga victims of SH, pero ganun din kinikilala na nabibiktima rin ang members of the LGBTQ plus community of sexual harassment and discrimination. And the guidelines, the law applies to all.
Okay po. Very clear answer po. And for question 7, ito po ang kanyang sinabi, what if po ang dinulog ng student ay domestic sexual harassment sa bahay? Paano po ang role ng school's CODI or paano po ang handling nito dito kung sa CODI po ni-report? To anyone who can answer, perhaps DepEd po?
Okay, so we're actually strengthening our mechanism with reference to this particular concern. So one particular scenario that may be adopted or eventually will be, syempre sa trusted adult muna, no, nung bata, specifically in the context of school setting, may that be the advisor or guidance counselor. So definitely co-coordinate naman ito with reference to, of course, community or partners natin sa DSWP. So eventually matulungan natin yung bata and we can take actions on the steps to be done later. Yun po.
LSWDO.
Thank you.
Okay po, from TESTA, baka may answer po si Ms. Kat, karagdagan po.
Sa existing po namin kasing guidelines sa COVID, ang scope namin talaga is those that yung nangyayari po within doon sa training institutions. Pero I agree po with Sir from DepEd na if there are yung domestic violence po na nangyayari, meron din pong appropriate na agency na pwede pong samahan siguro nung institution, nung training institution yung tulungan yung pong kanyang trainee po.
Okay, I guess wala na pong pahabol na questions. Salamat po sa mga participants natin na nag-post ng kanilang mga katanungan at salamat sa ating mga resource persons para sa paglilinaw at mga kasagutan. By this time, lumitaw na po si Jermaine ng 6 na beses. Kaya pwede nyo na pong i-upload ang mga screenshots or pictures nyo sa Facebook at gamitin ang hashtag na #FindJermaine kadugtong ang nabuong word of the day. Ayan, remember, dapat nakapublic po ang inyong post at dapat naka-indicate po kung ano po yung ating question for the day. At bago po tayo magpaalam with our closing message, reminder po muna para sa mga nais kumuha ng Certificate of Participation, here are the steps. Mag-fill out ng online attendance form. And number 2 is let us know about your feedback on this activity by accomplishing the PCW's Activity Evaluation Form. Makikita niyo po ang mga links sa attendance at evaluation sa comment section. At sa text description o caption ng ating live stream. Maaari niyo rin pong iscan ang QR code sa screen para mabilis na ma-access ang mga iyan. Ipapadala po ang e-certificate sa email na inyong isusulat sa mga forms, so make sure na tama po ang inyong details. Hanggang bukas, December 11, 11:59 p.m. lang po pwedeng mag-fill out at mag-submit ng mga ito. Now, before we announce the winners sa ating Find Jermaine game, we are very ecstatic to welcome ASEC Maria Nerissa A. Molina Carpio of the Department of Justice. ASEC Molina Carpio previously served at the Sandigan Bayan and Court of Appeals in DOJ. She handled posts including prosecution attorney and senior assistant state prosecutor. She has been working on the Witness Protection Security and Benefit Program for 28 years from its inception in 1991. Currently, she is sitting as the OIC Assistant Secretary for the Subcluster on Gender and Special Protections. A round of virtual claps for ASEC Molina Carpio. Glad to have you here today, ASEC. Please go ahead.
Afternoon, magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. As we reach the last few days before we end our 18-day campaign to end violence against women, please allow me, in behalf of Department of Justice Secretary Manardo I. Guevara, to congratulate and commend the Philippine Commission on Women in its efforts in spearheading this campaign, in making everyone more aware and confident that every space should always feel safe. I personally believe that we must always have a sense of feeling safe anywhere we are, of being safe in a place, especially in what most of us consider our second homes, with respect to our schools, while for us adults, our workplaces, which is our self-imposed second homes. The Safe Spaces Act is a significant legislation that not only moves us towards that feeling of being safe anywhere we are, but also arms us with the protection of the law from the feeling of uncertainty of whether or not we are indeed safe. First and foremost, with respect to our workplaces, educational and training institutions, the law has charged our respective organizations to provide appropriate and adequate avenues and mechanisms for those who have fallen victims to gender-based sexual harassment, or GBSH, to seek redress against persons who violate their rights under the law. The proper handling of these complaints at the organizational level ensures that victims of gender-based sexual harassment need not second-guess themselves whenever they are faced with gender-based sexual harassment. This reassures them that their respective organizations will not tolerate any and all deplorable acts of gender-based sexual harassment, and such acts will not be taken lightly. This does not only open the doors to corrective action within the organizations, but will also equip the victims of gender-based sexual harassment not only with the confidence to pursue these cases in the regular courts, if deemed necessary, but also corrects the culture and mindset that have been well entrenched in us as Filipinos. These affirmative and corrective actions toward these acts would seem petty for some, while to others it will be a breath of fresh air, and to a more important few, it will be life-changing. Being able to step out of your houses or private spaces without the constant fear of being or feeling harassed is a day-to-day experience for many. What hinders them from the pursuit of redress is not only how this may seem petty for some, for even complaining about these acts, but also the possibility of being ridiculed or victim-shamed, as these acts are seen to be okay or acceptable based on well-entrenched cultural Filipino norms that have never been questioned before, or in this case, legislated against. I know that the implementation of the Safe Spaces Act will present its challenges as we have years of engraved culture to change and mindsets to transform. But we must press on and be firm in our stand against gender-based sexual harassment, and that it should no longer be okay. Let us ensure that these victims are given every opportunity and access to justice in fighting for their rights under the law, and no longer be ashamed to pursue redress. Let us do our part in ensuring that everyone feels safe wherever we may be. Ating patunayan na ang Filipino ay marespeto at maging bahagi ng komunidad kung saan walang haras. Dahil sa safe spaces, kasali tayo. Maraming salamat po. A blessed Christmas to everybody and a healthy and safe 2022 to all of us.
Thank you very much to Asik Molina Carpio of DOJ. Ngayon, dumako na tayo sa announcement of winners ng ating hashtag Find Jermaine Challenge. Kung tumutok po kayo sa buong sesyon at nakita ng 5 beses ang paglabas ni Jermaine, nabuo po ninyo ang ating word for the day na gender. Yan. Again, the word for the day is gender. Ayan, kaya ang ating hashtag ngayong araw ay hashtag Find Jermaine Gender. Kinalap namin ang mga entries na nakasunod sa ating mechanics at narito na po ang mga entries sa ating Wheel of Names. Now, ready na ba ang Wheel of Names? Ayan. Now, let's spin the wheel for our first winner. Yes, and the first winner is Idole Buenaventura. Our first winner is Idole Buenaventura. Ayan. And hindi lang po nag-iisa ang ating winner. Meron pa tayong 9 winners. So ano naman kaya ang susunod na pangalan na mananalo? Faith Nicole Quizon. Again, Faith Nicole Quizon, nanalo ka po. Ang ating third winner is si Charina Tapdasad. Charina Tapdasad, our third winner. Our fourth winner is Karil Jane Caber Mariano. Yan, Karil Jane Caber Mariano. And our next winner is Buni Rigor. Again, Buni Rigor, congratulations po. Our next winner is Janet Rentukan Panginahog. Yan. Congratulations! And the next winner is Renalyn Zamora. Renalyn Zamora, congratulations! And the next is Aries Camela. Congratulations, Aries Camela. The next winner is Steven Valencia. Steven Valencia, congratulations! Ayan. Our next winner is Arlene. Congratulations, Arlene. Thank you for joining. Ayan, meron pa ba? Or last na yon? Ayan, mukhang ito na ang last winner. So far, meron po tayong 10 winners sa ating hashtag Find Jermaine Challenge. So ang hashtag po is hashtag Find Jermaine Gender. Congratulations po sa ating hashtag Find Jermaine winners. To claim your prize, mag-message lang po sa aming page para sa mga instructions. Muli, maraming salamat po sa lahat ng tumutok sa last episode ng Safe Spaces, Kasali Tayo online events. And big thanks to our speakers, guests, and our partner FSL interpreters from DepEd Philippines, Coach Patrick and Coach Roxanne. Abangan po ninyo sa December 12 ang ilalabas naming video featuring all the highlights of this year's 18-day campaign to end vow. Again, I am Naomi Tiburcio, glad to be your host this afternoon. We are leaving you with this video featuring the Safe Spaces Pledge and anti-vow advocates in government agencies and private organizations. Lagi pong tandaan, ang karahasan ay malalabanan kung tayo ay magtutulungan dahil ang vow-free community starts with me at ang Filipino ay marespeto. Safe Spaces, kasali tayo. Maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat and ingat!
Isidro La Peña, the Director General of the Technical Education and Skills Development Authority. We at TESDA commit to a community with safe spaces. We vow to ensure that Republic Act number 11313, also known as the Safe Spaces Act, is properly implemented within the agency, particularly in the delivery of technical vocational education and training. We are strengthening our Committee on Decorum and Investigation, or CODI, to prevent and address issues of sexual harassment and other gender-based violence in the TESDA offices and training institutions. We shall remain committed in raising awareness on gender equality, women empowerment, safety, and social equity in Tibet. We commit to instill the values of respect and gender sensitivity practices in the workplace and training institutions nationwide, with the goal of ensuring that our trainees, employees, and other stakeholders feel safe, whether face-to-face or online. Sa TESDA, siguradong may safe spaces para sa lahat. Ating patunayan ng Pilipino ay marespeto at maging bahagi ng komunidad kung saan walang harass. Dahil sa safe spaces, kasali tayo.
Good day. I am Director Panfilo Niore L. Salva Jr., Head of the Administration and Finance Office of the Cybercrime Investigation and Coordinating Center. Together with my colleagues in the agency, I wish to express our commitment as fellow advocates in making our spaces safe, special, and inclusive. We uphold the rights of all people of all genders, women, men, and the members of the LGBTQIA+. Our space is no place for abuse, violence, or harassment of any form. We do not tolerate any behaviors that threaten or discriminate against people with whom we share it. We vow to ensure that we are protecting our spaces, including the cyberspace. Maraming salamat po.
Good morning, everyone. I, Nancy A. Bantog, the Regional Director and Chairperson of the Gender and Development Focal Point System of the Department of Science and Technology, Cordillera Administrative Region, warmly greet everyone and encourage you all to observe the 18-day campaign to end violence against women and children from November 25 to December 12, 2021. With the theme, Vow-Free Community Starts With Me, we at DOST-CAR are committed in promoting safe spaces in our workplace through gender mainstreaming, ensuring that gender-based violence, sexual harassment, and discrimination will not foster in our workplace is manifested in the issuance of policies, practices, and provision of services to our customers. To our kakailians, let us ensure to continue promoting safe spaces in the community that will nurture a culture of peaceful and harmonious relationship among women, men, children, and members of the LGBTQIA+. We, the DOSTCAR, will serve as a beacon of safe spaces in the Cordilleras through science, technology, and innovation. We will break the barriers and prevent violence. We are the DOSTCAR.
Hi, I am Marvin Andrew Lee, Regional Supervising Auditor of COA Regional Office 9 and Chairperson of COA MOVE, Men Opposed Against Violence R9 Chapter. We at MOVE vow to speak against violence against women and protect spaces of our female personnel in our organization. We initiate and implement gender and development-related activities that would eliminate violence against women and to help foster a more secure environment and workplace for them. A place where they can work without fear of trauma, excessive stress, violence, or fear of violence or abuse. And a place where they feel safe, comfortable with the freedom to express themselves without the fear of judgment or harm. Let us do our part in ensuring that women, men, and members of the LGBTQIA+ feel safe wherever they may be. Ating patunayan na ang Pilipino ay marespeto at maging bahagi ng komunidad kung saan walang harass dahil sa safe spaces. Kasali tayo. Thank you.
Magandang araw po sa inyong lahat. Ako si Visitacion Quintana Mendoza, Regional Director of the Commission on Audit in Region 9, Zamboanga City. We at the Commission on Audit vow to ensure that we are protecting safe spaces. We have posted copies of the law and informed all our officials and personnel on this. We are also strengthening our Committee on Decorum and Investigation to investigate and address complaints of gender-based sexual harassment. We will also work with other government agencies and private stakeholders in any effort that contributes to ensuring safe spaces. Makisali po tayong lahat sa edikain na ito to ensure safe spaces for everyone, for the entire human race, regardless of culture, gender preferences, everywhere and anywhere, all the time. Maraming salamat.
I am Assistant National Statistician Wilma A. Gillian of the Philippine Statistics Authority. We at the Philippine Statistics Authority vow to ensure that we are protecting safe spaces. We uphold the rights of our employees and stakeholders by implementing rules and regulations that are consistent with the Civil Service Commission and the Department of Labor and Employment. In advocating RA 1131, or also known as the Safe Space Act, we disseminate related information during our orientation and planning workshops. And we will post copies of the law in the different areas of the PSA offices to better inform all our officials and personnel. We also have a committee on decorum and grievance to investigate and address complaints related to gender-based harassment and address gender issues and concerns. We will also work with other government agencies and private stakeholders in any effort that contributes to ensuring safe spaces. As the Central Statistics Authority of the Philippine government that collects, compiles, analyzes, and publishes statistical information, We commit to continually release relevant and timely data on gender statistics that reflects the situation of women and men in the Philippines.
Good day. I am Patrick Lester T., Chief Regulator of the Metropolitan Waterworks and Sewerage System Regulatory Office, or the MWSSRO. We, at the MWSSRO, vow to ensure that we are protecting safe spaces. We support the government's call to eliminate all forms of violence against women, or VOW, strengthen anti-VOW advocacy, and foster a community that has zero tolerance for VOW. This year, we lined up various activities in solidarity with the 2021 End VOW campaign, which carried the theme, VOW-Free Community Starts With Me. For this year's campaign, we will hold a series of informative learning and development activities, such as seminars on the law and implementing rules and regulations of the Safe Spaces Act, gender-based violence and feminist psychosocial first aid, knowing rape culture, sexual violence and safe online education, gender sensitivity, creating gender transformative and inclusive workspace, and cybercrime awareness and sextortion. Aside from that, we will conduct contests, workshops, and film viewing, which aims to heighten the awareness of our employees in fostering a gender-inclusive and VOW-free workplace. We are also strengthening our agency's Committee on Decorum and Investigation, or CODI, the body that investigates and addresses complaints related to gender-based sexual harassment. We call on everyone to join us in doing our part in ensuring that women, men, and members of the LGBTQIA+ feel safe wherever they may be. Filipino, marespeto. Safe spaces. Kasali tayo. Maraming salamat po.
I, Edward Lovell B. Brillantes, OIC President of South Cotabato State College, pledge to protect each one, especially our students, from any gender-based harassment. Raise awareness on core provisions of Republic Act 11313, the Safe Spaces Act through our GAD corners. Empower women and promote gender equity while valuing truth and respect for others. Manage safe spaces within the institution to prevent sexual harassment. Integrate and advocate gender equality principles in the school curriculum. Ensures that programs, services, projects, and activities being initiated are gender responsive. Responsibly mainstream gender and development in all programs. SAC Premier, let us join this campaign to end violence against women. Lahat ng membro ng SAC ay marespeto.
VOW-free community starts with me. Hashtag VOW-free-PH. I am Eden S. Matawaran, School Head of Tanay East Integrated National High School. We recognize the need to instill the value of respect in educational and training institutions. We want our students and teachers to feel safe, whether classes are held face-to-face or online. Thus, we are educating everyone in the academic institution as to the core provision of the Safe Spaces Act. We are also establishing mechanisms to prevent and address gender-based sexual harassment, GBSH, in the academic institution. Let us
all do our part in ensuring that women, men, and members of the LGBTQIA plus feel safe, whether they may be. Gawin nating ligtas ang lahat ng miyembro ng ating komunidad, mula sa mga kalsada at pampublikong lugar, sa trabaho, sa paaralan, hanggang sa cyberspace. Ating patunayan na ang Pilipino ay marespeto at maging bahagi ng komunidad kung saan walang harassed dahil sa safe spaces. Kasali tayo.
Hello from Aklan State University. I am Dr. Emily M. Arangote, University President of Aklan State University. We recognize the need to instill the value of respect in educational and training institutions. We want our students and teachers to feel safe whether classes are held face-to-face or online. Thus, we are educating everyone in the academe as to the core provisions of the Safe Spaces Act. We are also establishing mechanism to prevent and address gender-based sexual harassment in the academe. Gawin nating ligtas ang lahat ng miyembro ng ating komunidad, mula sa mga kalsada at pampublikong lugar, sa trabaho, sa paaralan, hanggang sa cyberspace. Let's prove that the Filipino is respectful and let us build communities where no one is harassed. Sa safe spaces, kasali tayo.
Hello everyone, I am Omar Sharif Dilanggalan Mamalinta, an election assistant to and liaison officer of the Commission on Elections Province of Cebu. I hereby commit myself to strengthen the advocacy against gender-based sexual harassment. Through my voice, I will propagate the issues and concepts mentioned in the Safe Spaces Act. Finally, I will live as a paragon by enforcing the act within our agency, which may possibly happen in any election-related activities. I encourage everybody to work hand in hand to ensure the safety of women, men, and the members of the LGBTQIA+ community. Ating patunayan na ang Filipino ay marespeto at maging bahagi ng komunidad kung saan walang harass. Dahil sa safe spaces, kasali tayo.
Ako po si Ricky Bunaw, isa pong Division Chief mula sa Department of Social Welfare and Development. Kasalukuyan, ako po ang Pangulo ng MOVE DSWD Chapter sa buong department. At ako po ang Executive Vice President ng MOVE Philippines National. At dati rin pong naging Pangulo ng MOVE Philippines. Kaisa ho ako sa pagsugpo ng karahasan. Labanan ang karahasan sa kababaihan at lahat ng sektor ng ating lipunan. Hindi ho ako papayag na may maabuso o marami pang mang-aabuso. Kaya napapanahon na para suportahan natin ang laban na ito. MOVE will always be there to promote and advocate programs to end gender-based violence and sexual harassment in all its settings. Let's move. Let's commit ourselves. Let's stop violence everywhere.
I am Franklin Kimpo, MOVE President of the Province of Aklan. We at MOVE Aklan are steady partners in building and protecting spaces that are safe from sexual harassment. We will collaborate with government agencies and other organizations in programs, activities, and projects that can aid in implementing the Safe Spaces Act. We will ensure that within our organization, due respect is given to all members and gender-based sexual harassment shall have no place. Gawin nating ligtas ang lahat ng miyembro ng ating komunidad, mula sa mga kalsada at pampublikong lugar, sa trabaho, sa paaralan, hanggang sa cyberspace. Ating patunayan na ang kalalakihan ay marespeto at maging bahagi ng komunidad kung saan walang harass dahil sa safe spaces. Kasali tayo. Padayon!
We at Move Aral Batangas are steady partners in building and protecting spaces that are safe from sexual harassment.
We will collaborate with government agencies and other organizations
in programs, activities, and projects that can aid in implementing the Safe Spaces Act.
We will ensure that within our organization,
due respect is given to all members and gender-based and sexual harassment shall have no place.
Ang Batanggenyo ay barako, pero hindi bastos.
We, the members of the MOVE and members of the Department of Social Welfare and Development Field Office, Caraga, remain steadfast in our commitment to support the government's goal to prevent and address gender-based sexual harassment everywhere. We will continue to work hand in hand as an organization to ensure that due respect is given to all the members of the vulnerable sectors, like children, youth, women, persons with disability, older persons, and members of the LGBTQIA. Gawin natin ligtas ang lahat ng membro ng aking komunidad mula sa mga kalsada at pampublikong lugar, sa trabaho, sa paaralan, hanggang sa cyberspace.
I am Toti Uisingo, an NGO worker and one of the founding members of Men Opposed to Violence Against Women Everywhere, or MOVE. I firmly believe that to create and sustain safe places for all genders starts with us. How we, men, observe equality, fairness, and adherence to justice in our speech and behavior will tell us if we made positive contribution to create the safe places we all hope for. I therefore commit to continue to educate myself of the root causes of gender-based violence in all its forms, not to remain silent and face up to misogynistic and sexist speech and behavior. Continue to work to bring change in social institutions and processes that support unfair entitlement of men that fuels gender-based violence, and to continue to be a voice and advocate to end gender-based violence. God bless and thank you.
I am Raymond Palmera, Chief Move DND Proper. We at Move DND Proper value, respect, and recognize the intrinsic dignity of every human being. As partners in building and protecting spaces free from gender-based sexual harassment, whether that space be our own workplaces or beyond, we commit to collaborate with organizations and projects that further implement the Safe Spaces Act and use our organization to spread awareness and inspire actions against gender-based sexual harassment. Let us all do our part in ensuring that women, men, and members of the LGBTQIA+ feel safe wherever they may be. Ating patunayan na ang Pilipino ay marespeto at maging bahagi ng komunidad kung saan walang harass. Dahil sa safe spaces, kasali tayo.
I, Major General Adriano S. Perez Jr., Philippine Army, Deputy Chief of Staff for Personnel J1, Armed Forces of the Philippines, and at the same time, the Vice Chairperson, DND MOVE Executive Committee for Military, vow to ensure that the AFP is protecting safe spaces. We have posted copies of the law and informed all our military and civilian human resources on this. We are also strengthening our Committee on Decorum and Investigation to investigate and address complaints of gender-based sexual harassment. We will also work with other government agencies and private stakeholders in any effort that contributes to ensuring safe spaces.
To all of you, during the observation and celebration of the 18-day campaign to end violence against women, calendar year 2021. My name is Brigadier General Raul Jesus L. Caldes, Philippine Navy Marines, and I am the Deputy Commandant, Philippine Marine Corps, as well as the Chairperson, MOVE Philippine Navy Subchapter. We at the Philippine Navy vow to ensure that we are protecting safe spaces. We have posted copies of the law and inform all our military personnel and civilian human resources on this. We are also strengthening our Committee on Decorum and Investigation to investigate and address complaints of gender-based sexual harassment. We will also work with other government agencies and private stakeholders in any effort that contributes to ensuring safe spaces. Let us do our part in ensuring that women, men, and members of the LGBTQIA feel safe wherever they may be. Gawin nating ligtas ang lahat ng miyembro ng ating komunidad mula sa mga kalsada at pampublikong lugar, sa trabaho, sa paaralan, hanggang sa cyberspace. Ating patunayan na ang mga Pilipino ay marespeto at maging bahagi ng komunidad kung saan walang haras dahil sa safe spaces. Kasali tayo.
I, Brigadier General Reno P. Tolentino, Philippine Army, Assistant Deputy Chief of Staff for Personnel AJ-1, Armed Forces of the Philippines, and at the same time, the Chief Leadership Committee, MOVE General Headquarters Chapter, vow to ensure that the AAP is protecting safe spaces. We have posted copies of the law and informed all our military and civilian human resources on this. We are also strengthening our Committee on Decorum and Investigation to investigate and address complaints of gender-based sexual harassment. We will also work with other government agencies and private stakeholders in any effort to contribute to ensuring safe spaces.
I am Colonel Adriano S.J. Duadico, Masters in National Security Administration, Philippine Air Force, the Assistant Chief of Air Staff for Personnel A1, and concurrent Chief of the Leadership Committee of MOVE Subchapter in the Philippine Air Force. Your Air Force is a community of safe spaces and supports the advocacy of rejecting all forms of gender-based violence. We vow to adhere with the provisions of Republic Act 11313 through various initiatives such as sustained awareness of POP personnel through the regular conduct of Truth, Information, and Education, or TINE, the distribution of advocacy materials to all POP units, and the periodic conduct of gender audit in all POP bases. Further, we have established our Committee on Decorum and Investigation, or CODI, to address expeditiously all complaints related to gender-based sexual harassment in the workplace and educational and training institutions. As our way ahead, the Philippine Air Force will establish its gender-based violence referral system that will ensure a systematic and gender-sensitive process in addressing all gender-based cases in the Philippine Air Force. Let us work together with Diwa, Galing at Malasakit to sustain safe spaces for everyone.
We at Santos District 17 Area 5 are steady partners in building and protecting spaces that are safe from sexual harassment. We will collaborate with government agencies and other organizations in programs, activities, and projects that can aid in implementing the Safe Spaces Act. We will ensure that within SONCA, due respect is given to all members and gender-based sexual harassment have no place. Thank you.
It is with great pride that I present the 20 presidents from Santos District 17 Area 5 with a call to action to commit to a community that is free from gender-based sexual harassment through raising awareness and supporting programs on the Safe Spaces Act. We are one with the Philippine Commission on Women, the public sector, and other private organizations as we work hand in hand in ensuring a safe space for all, an environment that empowers and encourages girls.
We, from the Zonta District 17 Area 5 Cluster 1, will do our part in ensuring that women, men, and members of the LGBTQIA+
feel safe wherever they may be, in public, educational institutions, workplace, and online.
We from the Zonta Club of District 17, Area 5, Cluster 2
will ensure a safe environment
for all members of the community, from the public,
workplace, educational institutions, and cyberspace.
We from the Zonta Club, District 17, Area 5, Cluster 3
will help in developing, implementing,
and evaluating approaches to prevent and respond to sexual harassment against women and girls in public,
work, educational, and cyber spaces.
We from the Zonta District 17, Area 5, Cluster 4
will do our part in spreading awareness on the Republic Act
1313, Safe Spaces Act, and work towards a community that is free
from gender-based sexual harassment
in public, educational, workplace, as well as online.
Good day. I am Jay Balyesa, Federation President of Men Opposed to Violence Against Women and Their Children Everywhere of San Jose Occidental, Mindoro. And we are steady partners in building and protecting spaces that are safe from sexual harassment. We will collaborate with government agencies and other organizations in programs, projects, and activities that can aid in implementing the Safe Spaces Act. We will ensure that within our organization, due respect is given to all members, and gender-based sexual harassment shall have no place. A violence against women-free community starts with me.